Chapter 140. It's against the law to tease ladies. The City Protection Bureau had spent much effort and engaged many martial warriors in this operation. The chief of the City Protection Bureau had to deal with immense pressure when he decided to carry out this operation. After all, this piece of news came from a paper with an unknown source. They didn't even know who the informant was. He might be playing with them, or even worse, this might be a trap. They could suffer a huge loss if things went south. All of this was part of their consideration. It wasn't easy to engage all this manpower. If something untoward happened, the chief of the City Protection Bureau would have to bear responsibility. Fortunately, the result was good. The content on the paper wasn't fake. This time, they gained merit. At this moment, Chief Tan of the City Protection Bureau looked at the bunch of evil clansmen in front of him and felt happy. However, he maintained the intimidating aura of a leader and patted his subordinates' shoulders occasionally as an encouragement. When he passed by the pile of 12 pig heads, he was slightly stunned. "Little Liu, what is going on? Why did you beat them up so badly? This is a little inhumane." "Yes, the evil clansmen are wicked, but we, the City Protection Bureau, have to be humane. We need to deal with them using humane methods." Chief Tan regained his senses and coughed dryly as he said, "Humane methods? What do you mean by humane methods?" If this person in front of them wasn't their immediate superior, Little Liu and his colleague would have refuted him. When did the City Protection Bureau ever act humanely? However, they didn't have the guts to say this. They still needed their jobs. It was hard to support one's family in this current society. They could never lose their job. Little Liu smiled and said obsequiously, "Chief, you're right. However, this is not done by the two of us. We were just in charge of dragging them here." "You didn't do it. Who did it then?" Chief Tan was puzzled. "We don't know. However, it should be one of our own," Little Liu replied with a bitter smile. "You're not lying to me." Chief Tan still didn't believe them. "Chief, we wouldn't dare to lie to you. If you don't believe us, we can swear to heaven." Little Liu lifted his hand and wanted to make a vow. All right. Chief Tan waved his hand. He rubbed his chin as he said, "I didn't expect our City Protection Bureau to have such a talent." Little Liu and his colleague. "Who was the one that said this was an inhumane act a moment ago? Why are you saying that this person is a talent now? Chief, you have double standards. If you continue like this, you'll lose 2 outstanding workers. Cough, the 2 of you are not bad. Work hard. I have high hopes for you." Chief Tan seemed to have realized his error. He quickly salvaged the situation and then walked away calmly with his hands behind his back. Wang Teng returned to his rented house in the university town. He realized that after this trip, he was a little hungry. He called for food delivery. He would order some Chinese barbecue and a bottle of Coke. Yes, this is how you should eat at night. What a good life. Fat. What is that? As a martial warrior, I have no fear of getting fat. While waiting for food, Wang Ting pulled out his attributes panel and looked at it. His spirit and enlightenment attributes had increased. Although all he got were normal spirit and enlightenment attributes, they won by numbers. Enlightenment, spiritual realm, 12, 5100, spirit, spiritual realm, 4, 5100, then, his 5 elements increased individually too. Besides his fire element attribute, the other 4 attributes were close to reaching the 2-star level. Wang Ting didn't waste his time. His enlightenment had increased, so he started practicing his battle technique without further ado. 40 minutes later, his food arrived. He opened the door and walked out. A food delivery young man was standing at the entrance. "Hello, your food delivery is here." He sounded extremely polite. Wang Ting nodded and thanked the delivery man. Life was tough. He still needed to send deliveries in the middle of the night. After dropping Wang Ting's order, the delivery man went next door. The person who opened the door was a pretty lady. Wang Ting didn't take notice of her, though. He closed the door directly, but he didn't return to his room. He ate his supper in the courtyard. The moment he sat down, there was a knock on the door. Wang Ting frowned. He got up and opened the door. The lady next door was standing outside. She was wearing short pants and a shirt, with her hair tied up in a bun. It made her look youthful and witty. She seemed to be around 20 years old, and her beauty was 8 out of 10. "Hello, the delivery man gave me the wrong order just now. I looked at the address, and I think it's yours. Can you see if you got my order?" The beauty was holding the delivery bags in her hand as she spoke in a slightly embarrassed tone. "Oh." Wang Teng looked at the name and address on the delivery bag. He said in a surprised tone, "It's really mine. Wait for a moment. Let me take a look and see if I took your food." Wang Teng turned and walked back into his courtyard. He looked at the address on the bag. Indeed, it was wrong. He had only glanced at the name of the shop on the receipt just now to confirm that it was right. He didn't look at the address and name. Who would have thought that his neighbor had ordered from the same shop? The delivery man even messed up their order. What a coincidence. "Take a look. Is this yours? I haven't opened it yet." Wang Teng passed the delivery bag to her. "Yes, it's mine. Thank you, little brother." The lady with the bun smiled like a blooming flower. "You're welcome. You don't really have to thank me, though," Wang Teng said. "All right." The lady with a bun nodded. She seemed to have a good impression of Wang Teng. She stretched out her dainty little hand and smiled. "Let's get to know each other. My name is Yang Xin. I live beside you. Please take care of me in the future." Looking at the lively beauty in front of him, Wang Teng was slightly shocked. He lifted his hand and smiled. "My name is Wang Ting. We're neighbors now. You don't have to be so polite. Did you just move in?" "I don't think I've seen you before," Yang Xin said. "I've rented this place for some time, but I was busy. I couldn't move in immediately. I have many things to do, so I don't come here often," Wang Ting said. "Wow, you rented such a big house, but you don't come here often. You must be wealthy," Yang Xin teased him. Wang Ting smiled. He didn't continue the topic but instead asked, "What about you? Are you a student from a nearby university?" "That's right. I'm a student at Donghai Teaching University. I'll be a Year 3 student after this summer break. I'm normally out doing a part-time job. When I go back late at night sometimes, the dormitory auntie doesn't allow me to enter. It's a little inconvenient, so I rented a house outside with a few of my friends," Yang Xin said. "You must be a student of a nearby university too. Let me guess. You must be a freshman. You came here to experience the university town first, right?" "Yes, I'm indeed a freshman at Huanghai Military Academy." Wang Teng nodded. "Wow, Huanghai Military Academy." Yang Xin looked at Wang Ting in astonishment. She said, "You must be practicing martial arts, right? Sounds like you're really powerful." "Yes, I do practice martial arts." Wang Teng nodded. "I admire martial arts students like you so much. You'll receive good treatment, have high status, and are powerful. After you graduate, you will be the elite of the elites, especially the students from Huanghai Military Academy. I've heard that after graduation, you guys have a chance of entering the military directly." Yang Xin sounded more and more envious as she spoke. "It's not so exaggerated. Your university is not bad either. It's nice to become a teacher after you graduate. You will get respected," said Wang Teng. "Sigh, let's not talk about that. It's a sad story. Nowadays, it's not easy to become a teacher of a public school. If you want to teach in a top high school, you need to graduate with a master's degree. If you choose an elementary school or a junior high, the treatment won't be as good as a high school. It's so difficult." Yang Xin sighed again with an agonized expression. In an instant, Wang Ting didn't know how to console her. He just had a hearty talk with a slight acquaintance. After all, they had just met. "Haha, sorry to bother you. I accidentally started complaining to you while chatting." Yang Xin suddenly realized the situation and smiled bitterly. "It's all right. I just don't know how to console you," Wang Ting said. "Haha, this is not good. You must learn how to coax a lady. Oh, I should be going back now. I won't disturb you anymore. Oh right, let's exchange WeChat. If little brother wants to get to know the environment here, I can be your guide." Yang Xin took out her phone and said. Exchange WeChat. Ladies nowadays really like to exchange WeChat with other people. Seriously. Okay Tilda, let's exchange our WeChat. I'm not familiar with the university town anyway. Wang Teng pretended to be serious. Yang Xin added Wang Teng's WeChat and went back to her rented house. The two ladies peeking at the side of the door immediately pretended that they didn't see anything. They gathered around and asked, Xin, tell us, what did you do? Why did it take you so long to come back? Let me tell you, our neighbor is a really handsome young boy. Yang Xin was a little excited as she spoke. Really? Really? The two ladies' eyes lit up, their voices joining together in unplanned unison. Just now, Wang Ting was standing inside the door, so they couldn't see his face. When they heard their friend's words, they suddenly felt a hint of surprise. After all, he was just living opposite. They were able to enjoy the benefits of a favorable position. Haha, if you want to know, you have to clean the clothes for the entire week next week. Yang Xin waved her phone. I've already added his WeChat. Ah, how despicable. You actually got his WeChat. Yang Xin, you're a scheming lady, the two ladies shouted. PH, looks like you don't want to know him. How dare you call me a scheming lady, Yang Xin said. Don't do that. We want to know. Good Xin, we were wrong. Well, do your laundry for 1 week. The two ladies hugged Yang Xin's arms, each on one side, and shook it continuously as they begged for forgiveness. Haha, this feels good. Yang Xin raised her snow-white neck and said with a look of disdain, there's no need to say any more. You must at least wash my clothes for 2 weeks now. If not, nothing is negotiable. Ah, 2 weeks. The two ladies cried bitterly. If you hesitate any longer, don't come and beg me the next time you see the real person. At that time, it won't be something that can be solved with 2 weeks of clothes, Yang Xin said. All right, we will wash them for you. It's just 2 weeks, right? The two ladies exchanged glances with each other. They gritted their teeth and agreed to Yang Xin's request. You need to wash them with your hands, especially my undergarments, Yang Xin said. Don't worry, we won't be careless. Hurry up and tell us, said the two ladies. Then, it was a round of private ladies' talk. They ate their barbecue and chatted about the young man next door. In their excitement, they would even let out a scream or two. Men were not the only people who talked about pretty ladies. When ladies were free, they would talk about men too. The next day, at 8 a.m., Yang Xin and her two roommates went out together to head to work. When they went past Wang Teng's door, they saw a few delivery men moving some things into his courtyard. Wang Teng stood at the side and was verifying something with one of the delivery men. He's really handsome. Also, he looks like a mature person. Yang Xin's two roommates were good-looking, just like her. When they saw Wang Ting standing in the courtyard, their eyes lit up like light bulbs. They spoke in hushed voices. Xin, let's go over and greet him, one of Yang Xin's roommates, Sun Xiuyun, said. That's right. Let's go and greet him. You can introduce us to him too, the other roommate, Li Qian, urged her. I really have nothing to say about the two of you. Yang Xin felt helpless. She didn't know what to say about her two friends who took love more seriously than friendship. However, she still listened to their request and greeted Wang Teng. Morning. The battle uniform and other items he purchased yesterday had arrived. Wang Teng was signing the invoice when he heard a voice and turned around. He saw 3 beautiful ladies. One of them was Yang Xin, whom he had chatted with yesterday. Morning. He walked out of the courtyard and smiled as he greeted her. He asked, Are you going out for work? Yes. I was just preparing to head out. What are you doing? Why are there so many cartons? Yang Xin asked curiously. Oh, I'm preparing to go out, so I bought some kits. Wang Teng didn't explain in detail. Yang Xin noticed that he didn't want to talk much, so she stopped probing. At this moment, her roommates were poking her waist with their fingers from the back. Naturally, she knew what her irritating besties wanted to do. She rolled her eyes secretly, but she still introduced them. Oh right, let me introduce my 2 roommates to you. This short-haired lady is called Sun Xiuyun and the long-haired one is Li Qian. Wang Ting felt speechless when she listened to Yang Xin's perfunctory introduction. Sun Xiuyun and Li Qian were furious. They were going to end all relationships with her, end all relationships. They wouldn't be besties anymore. Hello, I'm Sun Xiuyun. Hello, I'm Li Qian. The two of them gave their most beautiful smile as they introduced themselves. Nice to meet you. Wang Ting nodded in response. He smiled and said, you should know my name already. The delivery men all saw Wang Ting chatting happily with three equally beautiful ladies. They were green with envy. So what if you are handsome? So what if you have money? Don't you know that it's against the law to tease ladies? Unfortunately, they only dared to complain in their hearts. They knew that the youth in front of them wasn't just simply rich and handsome. He was a martial warrior. In front of a martial warrior, they should just keep some things in their hearts. They didn't dare to display their emotions openly. Mr. Wang, your items are all here. Well, make a move now. One of the delivery men walked over and said. All right, thanks for your help. Wang Ting nodded. It's our job, it's our job. The delivery men felt overwhelmed by the special favor. We are leaving for work now. Let's keep in touch. Yang Xin and her friends bid farewell to him. All right, Wang Ting replied. The three ladies walked out of the alley. Li Qian suddenly said, did you notice the symbol of Jisin Martial House on the clothes of the delivery men and the cartons in the courtyard? Jisin Martial House, one of the top 3 martial arts academies. Yang Xin and Sun Xiuyun recalled carefully. That seemed to be the truth. They gave a look of surprise uncontrollably. Even normal people knew Jisin Martial House in this martial arts era, much less university students like them. This junior brother Wang Ting doesn't seem like a simple person, Li Qian commented. Chapter 141, Die a Worthy Death. After tidying his luggage, Wang Ting stepped on the journey to the Xingwu continent again. This time, he went alone. He came to the military camp where the dimensional rift was. This place was heavily guarded all the time. Not only were there soldiers carrying heavy firearms patrolling the area in shifts, but there were also martial warriors guarding in the shadows. Please provide your identification and cooperate with our inspection. The guard at the entrance stared at Wang Ting intensely with his sharp gaze. At the same time, he secretly pointed the firearm in his hand at Wang Ting. Wang Ting followed the instructions smoothly. He took out his martial warrior credentials and passed them to the guard. The other party carefully verified his credentials. He also collected Wang Ting's facial features and used them to verify his identity. Simultaneously, another guard took out his scanning device and inspected his entire body as well as his belongings. Thank you for your cooperation. Once they confirmed that everything was fine, the guard saluted Wang Ting and let him in. Wang Ting nodded. He walked through the door and went all the way in. Now that he was alone, he had more time to observe the surroundings. He noticed that his country placed a significant emphasis on the dimensional rift. There were all kinds of heavy firearms within the vicinity. There were cannons, infantry, armored vehicles, and even tanks and guided missiles on standby all the time. What are they guarding against? The Xingwu continent? Or is it other evil clans? Wang Ting had a more direct perception of the tight security of this forbidden military district compared to the last time he came. Thus, he couldn't help but guess secretly. The dimensional rift was one way. The people on Earth could go there, but the people from Xingwu continent couldn't come over. In that case, guarding against the Xingwu continent was secondary to their country. Could it be that they were on the lookout for the evil clans? Or was there some unknown inside story that ordinary people didn't know? Maybe it was so dangerous that they needed to treat it cautiously. Wang Ting shook his head. Before receiving any compelling news, he wouldn't be able to come up with any sort of answer. After some time, Wang Ting reached the plaza where the dimensional rift was located. As usual, there were a huge number of soldiers guarding the entrance. He could see martial warriors walking in and out occasionally. The martial warriors that went in were just like Wang Ting. They looked ready to start. As for those that came out, they looked bedraggled and had blood all over their bodies. They were giving off a cold and vicious aura. This was the implication of killing. Some of these martial warriors had smiles on their faces, while some had sorrowful expressions. Some had a solemn aura around them. They might have just lost their companions. Wang Teng walked into the plaza and looked around. He was slightly stunned. A small troop was gathering at the side of the plaza. There were bloodstains on their bodies. They had probably come back from the Xingwu continent, but Wang Ting didn't know what they had just experienced. Some of them were heavily injured, and some had bandages around their bodies. Some people got carried out on stretchers too. However, one thing of note was the heroic aura pervading the air around them. What's the matter? What's the purpose of this troop that just went to the Xingwu continent? Wang Ting stood at the side and stared at them. He was filled with queries. The last time he went to the Xingwu continent with the Tiger Warrior team, they didn't see any military traces, whether in the city or the dark mist forest. Where were they stationed? What were they doing? He thought he would be able to get some answers after going to the Xingwu continent. But, now, he realized that the Xingwu continent was still shrouded in a mysterious mist. Everyone, you died a worthy death. Let's go home. An angry shout came from the front of the troop. Go home. The entire unit responded furiously too. They turned around abruptly and marched towards the entrance at an orderly pace. Even though they were injured, their backs were ramrod straight. Wang Ting finally saw the soldiers at the front holding a few urns in their hands, and the country flag was decorating the urns. Some people were crying violently, but they remained resolute. Wang Teng was astounded. He stood on the spot and watched them leave with his gaze. He remained silent for a long time. You died a worthy death, he muttered to himself as he walked towards the dimensional rift. Wang Ting took a step into the dimensional rift. He felt dizzy. He tried his best to open his eyes, but unfortunately, all he saw was pitch black. He couldn't see anything at all. After feeling the solid ground underneath his feet, he still couldn't see anything. He opened his eyes, but everything was pitch black. Did I go blind? Wang Ting was shocked, finally regretting his actions. Fortunately, after some time, he slowly regained his vision and managed to see the things in front of him. Little brother, it's better not to open your eyes in the dimensional rift. You will lose your vision otherwise. Another martial warrior who just came out of the dimensional rift smiled and said to him, Thank you for your reminder. Wang Ting nodded. Old Chen, let's go. The martial warrior's teammate called out to him. The martial warrior called Old Chen nodded at Wang Ting and followed his teammates. Wang Ting could faintly hear their conversation. He looks like a newbie. Old Chen, why do you care about him? You don't know him. Haha, we've all been through this stage. If we can help, let's just help. Speaking of it, this fellow came to the Xingwu continent alone. He's quite bold. The voices got fainter as they moved further away. Wang Teng retracted his gaze and picked up the attribute bubbles these people had dropped. Space *0. 6. He noticed that the space attribute bubbles only existed for a very short time. Also, only people who just came out from the dimensional rift would drop this attribute. There were no space attribute bubbles around him left behind by the martial warriors who came before them. If not, there should be more bubbles. Should I set up camp here? Wang Teng thought to himself. Currently, he didn't have many space attributes. When he went back to Earth to rest, he tested this attribute. This amount of space attribute couldn't do anything at all. It was just for show. The space talent was very important. He needed to collect more of them. Without hesitating any longer, Wang Teng went to the back of the dimensional rift and sat at the corner of the hall. He hid in the dark. Only newbies would observe their surroundings curiously. Experienced martial warriors left the moment they came out, just like the team that came with him. To them, staying here a second longer was a waste of time. Thus, no one would notice him. Wang Teng stayed in the hall for several hours. There weren't many people who came in and out of the dimensional rift. Not everyone would drop space attribute bubbles either. It was all based on luck. Space attribute *3. For he looked at his attributes panel. Space, 4, 8 10,000. Wang Teng glanced at the time and knew that he couldn't stay here any longer. If the guards patrolling outside came in to check the area, Without a doubt, he would be taken away as a suspicious person. It was unrealistic for him to stay here and wait to pick up space attributes. He would be taken as a lunatic even if he wasn't. When will I be able to collect enough space attributes? Wang Teng sighed. He got up helplessly and walked out of the hall. At this moment, a few martial warriors walked out of the dimensional rift. They saw Wang Ting strolling out of the corner of their eyes and got a rude shock. They looked at Wang Ting with a puzzled expression. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. Pick them up. Space *1. 3. Oh my god, these martial warriors had dropped quite a few space attributes. There were 3 points in total. This was the highest number he had seen until now. Space, 6, 10,000. Indeed, life is full of small surprises. Wang Ting walked out of the hall in satisfaction. He ignored the people inside who were still in shock. Chapter 142. Don't go out when it's dark. Wang Ting walked out of the Force Tower and strode on the wide streets of Yong City. Ever since getting the space ring, he had started keeping some inconvenient items inside the ring. He only needed to carry his weapon carrier casket. Otherwise, he traveled lightly. He kept thinking of the same question along the way. Why weren't people from the Xingwu continent able to pass through the dimensional rift? Last time, Wang Ting had asked Lin Zhon and his teammates the same question, but they didn't know the answer. Could it be that the Earth's will is resisting the people from the Xingwu continent? Wang Ting had this thought, but he found it a little funny. Although the presence of martial warriors in this martial arts era didn't make scientific sense, it would be even more absurd if they started talking about the will of the Earth. He shook his head. Not far away from him, the Yong City branch of Jisin Martial House was within his sight. When Wang Ting walked into the building, many people recognized him. Isn't that the newbie from the Tiger Warrior team? Why is he alone? The Tiger Warrior team lost an important member recently. By right, they will need to spend a long time reorganizing themselves before they come to the Xingwu continent again. Could it be that He's here to explore on his own? The martial warriors in the hall started discussing among themselves. Some looked at Wang Ting in surprise. Wang Ting ignored everyone and walked straight to the counter. He said to the staff, "I want to borrow a heavy armor vehicle." The staff looked at Wang Ting's extremely young face and felt a little astounded. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes." Wang Ting nodded. "Young man, do you know how dangerous it is to explore and hunt alone?" Someone couldn't help but remind Wang Ting. "Thank you for your concern. However, I've already made my decision," said Wang Ting. "All right, I just wanted to remind you. You can make your own decision. We can't control you." The person waved his hand nonchalantly. The staff didn't say anything. He just passed Wang Ting a key. "This is the car key. Take the car matching the number on the key. The payment will be based on the amount of time you use it. Also, if the car is spoiled, you will need to make the necessary compensation. What other questions do you have?" "No questions." Wang Ting nodded and turned around to leave the martial arts building. The people in the hall looked at his back view as he left. They couldn't help but exclaim, "Youth knows no fear." Wang Ting drove the heavy armor vehicle out of Yong City toward the dark mist forest. The heavy armor vehicle used force as its fuel. There was a vast difference between the Xingwu continent and Earth. The Xingwu continent used force as their primary energy source. Besides the force in the air around them, the main source of force came from energy stones. If they wanted to use force, they needed the help of runes. However, if they wanted to extract force from the air, they needed to extract, purify, and coagulate it. There were too many steps, and the efficiency was low. Without the skillfully contrived rune, they wouldn't be able to move machinery at a highly effective rate. Thus, under normal circumstances, these types of machinery relied on the force in energy stones as their fuel. Wang Ting only knew this general knowledge after he started driving his own car. It was already dusk. A huge sun hung low in the west, right above the horizon. The heavy armor vehicle moved forward at high speed, startling the birds in the wild. The transfer station outside the dark mist forest was known as the Dark Mist Town. By the time Wang Ting reached the Dark Mist Town, the sky had turned completely dark. He parked his car to the side, as he didn't plan to stop here. He wanted to enter the dark mist forest while it was still dark. He walked out of the small town and saw many citizens from the Xingwu continent along the way. Some of them looked at him coldly. They even seemed a little malicious. The Dark Mist Town was a famous location in the Xingwu continent. All kinds of martial warriors were gathered here, good and bad. From the past until now, the Xingwu continent remained a place that respected the powerful. They closely abided by the rule of the survival of the fittest. In fact, they didn't even hide their intentions. When the dimensional rifts appeared, they didn't change, following the same rule when they faced the martial warriors from the earth. They maintained peace on the surface, but the actual competition was intense and cruel. To some local tyrants that stayed in the Dark Mist Town all year round, Wang Teng, who came here all alone, was like a huge fat sheep. Wang Teng entered the Dark Mist Forest. Wearing his infrared glasses, he started shuttling back and forth in the forest at high speed. Steps of gale. Wind force swirled around his feet and formed small whirlpools. It pushed his body up and made him feel incredibly light and agile. This is how it feels like to be the wind. He kept increasing his speed to experience the sensation of merging with the wind. This time, he didn't execute the steps of gale because he wanted to show off. Instead, he was just practicing his battle technique to increase its proficiency. Wang Teng remained alert of his environment and occasionally used his spiritual sight to observe the changes to the force around him. Suddenly, he noticed something, and his gaze paused for a moment. He moved his body and leaped up a huge tree. He hid among the flourishing tree leaves. The plants on Earth had grown stronger and bigger after the purification of the force, but compared to their counterparts on the Xingwu continent, they were small. After Wang Ting hid himself, a few black figures came over at a fast speed. What happened? Where did that brat go? Damn it, he's really fast. He disappeared in a blink of an eye. The three suspicious figures were whispering in frustration. Wang Ting hid in the tree. As he listened to their conversation, he scoffed in his heart. Y'all are actually targeting me? Let's split up and search. Once anyone sees him, send the signal, one of the people said. Sure. The remaining two nodded and headed in other directions to search for Wang Teng. They left one person here to explore the vicinity. Based on the intensity of the force rays around these three, they should be 1-star soldier-level martial warriors. I want to see how you are going to rob me. Wang Teng remained indifferent, and an icy glare shot out of his eyes. He had killed many people, so he was gradually getting used to it. He didn't mind having a few more lives on his hands. Where did he go? Why can't we find him? The person below muttered to himself. He searched for a long time, but he couldn't find anyone. Are you looking for me? A voice suddenly came from above him. In the dark, the person's expression changed. Before he could react, though, a cold ray flashed past, and his body turned stiff and motionless. Ugh, ugh, his voice was stuck in his throat. His pupils constricted to needles, and his gaze was filled with disbelief. The person reflexively clutched his throat to stop the fresh blood from flowing out. He fell down weakly. As his opponent was a martial warrior, Wang Ting waited for some time before calling out to him once he was relaxed. His opponent was stunned. Wang Ting used his spiritual power to fire the shooting star spiral that he brought with him and took away his opponent's life in a split second. One shot, one kill. This method was unexpected. Even martial warriors had a hard time guarding against it. Spirit *2 Enlightenment *3 Earth Force *6 A few attribute bubbles dropped. Wang Teng picked them up and then kept the corpse in his space ring. Next, he chased after the other two who had gone in different directions. The martial warrior I just killed is the most powerful one among them. He should be a 1-star advanced stage martial warrior. The other two people are weaker. Never mind, let's just kill them using this sneaky method. Saves me much trouble. Wang Teng used his steps of gale and silently closed in on one of the martial warriors. The shooting star spiral was made from the spirit shadow starbone, so it was a potent murdering weapon in the dark. Even 2-star or 3-star martial warriors might get killed by it if they were careless. Very soon, Wang Ting found the other martial warrior. Go. He hid behind a huge tree. Following his thoughts, the shooting star spiral jumped in the air. The martial warrior got killed instantly. He didn't even have time to react. Spirit *1 Water Force *3 He picked them up. It was the last martial warrior's turn. Without any surprises, he died from the shooting star spiral. Wang Ting looked at the shooting star spiral that was giving off a dull glint. He suddenly thought of a sentence, "Don't go out when it's dark." The shooting star spiral allowed him to turn into a night murderer. No one was able to live under his hands. Actually, killing one-star martial warriors was as easy as killing chickens. Many people went through many hardships and challenges to become martial warriors. Yet, they got killed so easily. This was the cruelty of the martial warrior's world. Wang Ting looked at the bubbles dropped by the last martial warrior. Spirit *1 Fire Force *5 He picked them up. It was a pity that there weren't any scriptures or battle techniques. Wang Ting took out the other 2 corpses and laid them side by side. He then started searching the bodies. In the end, he found 3 small bags of energy stones. There weren't many of them, only around 30 pieces. He also found 3 weapons that were 1-star grade. He would earn some money if he sold them. After finishing everything, Wang Ting burned the 3 corpses into ashes. Getting rid of the corpses and the traces was a necessary step after killing someone. Also, Wang Ting viewed the shooting star spiral as his secret weapon. He didn't want other people to notice any hints of it from the corpses. The fire extinguished quickly. Next, Wang Ting headed towards the depth of the forest at high speed. Although the 3 martial warriors were dead, no one would seek justice for them. Their deaths would only cause some people to laugh at them for failing miserably in an easy task. After some time, no one would even remember their names. After taking care of the trouble, Wang Ting started training and hunting in the dark mist forest alone. The star beasts in the Xingwu continent were bigger in size than those on Earth. They ran wild in the forest, and the commotion they made was astonishing. It had been 3 days since Wang Ting entered the dark mist forest. At this moment, in front of him, 6 flying daggers and his shooting star spiral formed after images in the air as they cut through it. Their paths crisscrossed and created an airtight death web. It cut away at the group of 1-star star beasts in front of him like a meat grinder. Star Beast was a powerful presence. Even if it was just a 1-star beginner stage star beast, ordinary martial warriors would need some time before they could kill it. Some inexperienced martial warriors might even get killed by the star beast instead. However, now, the numerous star beasts in front of Wang Ting couldn't retaliate at all. They were being slaughtered like farm animals. The angry howls of the star beasts were heard continuously. It sounded exceptionally sad and shrill. The ground was quickly soaked with blood. Meat piles landed on the ground, painting a chilling scene. More than 10 1-star beginner stage jackals were killed by Wang Ting. They dropped a whole bunch of attribute bubbles. Blank attribute *2 blank attribute *2 Earth Force *5 blank attribute *3 Earth Force *2 He picked them up. During these 3 days, Wang Ting didn't go too deep into the forest. Instead, he hunted 1-star beginner stage star beasts like the ones in front of him. To other martial warriors, a group of star beasts might be a disaster, but Wang Ting was able to rely on his spiritual power to turn them into his attribute bubbles ATM. Wang Ting's spiritual power was stronger than his force. It was a lethal threat to beginner stage star beasts. He would kill one whenever he saw one. The more there were, the more exhilarating it was to kill them. Accordingly, there were more attribute bubbles too. When he killed star beasts, the attributes that dropped the most were blank attributes and force attributes. Wang Ting would increase his enlightenment whenever he received a blank attribute. His enlightenment had already reached the spiritual realm. When he raised it higher, the effects got better and better. It allowed the practice speed of his battle techniques to become faster and faster. His proficiency increased exponentially. If it continues like this, I will be able to reach the perfected stage for many of my battle techniques in no time. Also, the force attributes have been rising quickly too. They are reaching the level of a 2-star soldier level. Wang Ting was extremely motivated as he watched his stats rising at a visible speed. He took off all the materials on the star beasts' bodies and put them in his space ring. Star cores and star bones were rare. He hadn't seen any until now. Let's continue. Wang Ting decided to head deeper into the forest. During these 3 days, he had killed most of the 1-star beginner stage star beasts in this area. Now, all the star beasts were like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. Once they sensed any movement, they would run away. Rather than wasting time chasing them, Wang Ting decided to hunt for star beasts deeper in the forest. The outer circle of the dark mist forest was the territory of 1-star to 3-star star beasts. Normally, the deeper you went, the higher the level of the star beasts and the more powerful they were. Wang Ting kept pushing on from the outside of the circle to the inside. He started with 1-star beginner stage star beasts, 1-star advanced stage star beasts, and then 1-star peak stage star beasts. After another 5 days, a massive number of 1-star star beasts were killed by Wang Ting. His ability had taken an enormous leap. All his 5-element forces had finally reached the 2-star level. The 5 forces entered the second force nucleus above his tailbone. The 5 elements circled the force nucleus, reinforcing and counteracting one another. It was a mysterious feeling. That night, Wang Ting sat cross-legged on the crown of a huge tree and felt the changes of the forces in his body. He had a sudden thought. What will happen if I merge the 5-element forces together? Unfortunately, I lack metal and wood talents, so am unable to use these 2 forces. If not, I could have given it a try. When he pushed this thought aside, a new thought came to his mind. He frowned and pondered. The 3 mutated elements, wind, ice, and poison, are hard to get. I haven't seen any star beast with these 3 attributes. I didn't even see another gale wolf. I think that I can start hunting 2-star star beasts tomorrow. I hope that I can meet some of these star beasts. Once he decided on his plan, Wang Ting closed his eyes to rest. He continued his massacre the next day. I'll try my best to become a 3-star martial warrior before school starts. Wang Ting had this thought in mind, so he got more hardworking at hunting and killing star beasts. Slowly, he started exuding a crazy temperament. In the afternoon, he wandered around the forest and suddenly saw a star beast. His eyes lit up. Sure, look what I found. A gale wolf that got separated from its pack. I can try to kill it. 1 gale wolf can provide me with many wind force attributes. It will also drop a large number of blank attributes. However, gale wolves weren't easy to deal with. He needed to close in on them slowly from the back, carefully without making a sound. All right, I've caught it. Look at how hard it's struggling. I will smash its head into pieces, and then, there was no more then after this. Chapter 143, Dark Apparition. The attributes dropped by the 2-star beginner stage Gale Leopard included, Wind Force *10 blank attribute *12. Wang Ting picked all of them up. Without a doubt, even if it was just a 2-star beginner stage star beast, the attribute bubbles they dropped were more than a 1-star star beast. Then, he took some materials from the leopard's body. Wind was a mutated element. If you compared this star beast with another star beast of the same level, the materials on its body had a higher price than those from a normal element star beast. Its claws, teeth, skin. The last time he came to the Xingwu continent, Wang Ting had learned some dissection skills from Yang Fei. After a few days of practical experience, he got more and more skilled at it. He was able to dissect a beast quickly without wasting much time. The area inside the space ring was equivalent to a huge truck. It could fit many things. Thus, Wang Ting didn't hesitate. He stuffed all the things he obtained from the star beasts into the ring. This was all money. He must not waste them. Wasting was atrocious. When the space ring was full, he would find a place to hide the lower-priced items so that he could come back and take them another time. Finally, he checked if there was any star core or star bone. Although it was rare for a low-level star beast to have a star bone, Wang Ting didn't overlook any of the beasts he killed. He would only give up after he had completed his inspection. As expected, there was no star bone, but there was a pleasant surprise. The beast had a star core. It was a 2-star wind element star core. What a massive gain. Wang Ting happily kept the star core and left this place. In a certain part of the dark mist forest, Wang Ting met 3 2-star earth armor pigs. There was nothing to say between a human and a pig. They started fighting without a second word. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Wang Ting didn't use his shooting star spiral right away. He shot 6 flying daggers out first to hold back 2 of the earth armor pigs. Then, he dashed towards the last one. Fire Kirin sword skill. The moment he attacked, it was the perfected stage Fire Kirin sword skill. After these few days of practice, his Fire Kirin sword skill had reached the perfected stage. Its power was many times stronger than before. There were some differences between force battle techniques and foundation battle techniques. It could mainly be split into the foundation, small achievement, big achievement, perfected, presence, and conscious stage. There was no presence enlightenment stage after the perfected stage. It went right to the understanding of presence and conscious. These last 2 stages consisted of powerful lethal stances derived from the battle techniques. These stances exceeded the realms of battle techniques. For instance, one could derive sword presence and even the sword conscious. When you attacked with your sword, the powerful presence of your sword would bear down on your opponent and the conscious of your attack would cut through the air. The battle technique was heightened to another level. However, if you wanted to understand the presence and conscious of your skill, you needed to have extremely high talent. Among a few hundred martial warriors who practiced sword skills, there might not even be one who could understand the presence of the sword. Conscious was even more challenging to understand than presence. That was truly the exclusive right of real talents. Among a few thousand martial warriors who practiced sword skills, there might only be 1 or 2 that would reach the conscious stage. Wang Ting had an advanced stage sword skill talent as well as a high enlightenment attribute. This was why he was able to upgrade his Fire Kirin sword skill to the perfected stage so quickly. He even felt a faint hint of sword presence. At the moment, he was standing at the threshold of the present stage. His other battle techniques had also reached the perfected stage, but they didn't show any inclination to reach the present stage. Squeal. The earth armor pig grunted. Contrary to its appearance, its fat body was extremely agile. It stomped its hind leg on the ground and jumped to the side, evading Wang Ting's attack. Do you think you can dodge? There were no changes in Wang Ting's expression. He remained calm as he twirled the battle sword in his hand. His actions were smooth and natural, like flowing water. He turned the direction of his sword and aimed it at the earth armor pig's body. The sharp sword slit opened the earth armor pig's scales immediately. Next, a scorching fire force invaded its body. The earth armor pig let out a roar of agony. Then, it slammed into the ground. At the same time, Wang Ting controlled his 6 flying daggers and moved them below the 2 earth armor pigs. He pierced their abdomen with the daggers and ground their organs. Weak point. If you wanted to kill star beasts, you needed to find their weak points. This would save you time and energy. Earth Force *6 blank attribute *5 Earth Force *8 blank attribute *4 Wang Ting picked up the bubbles before bending down to take the materials on the earth armor pig's body. Then, he left. Boom. A giant python was hanging on a big tree branch that needed 5 adults to hug it together. Its thick and fat tail swooshed towards Wang Ting. A 3-star advanced stage star beast. As he went deeper into the forest, Wang Ting finally met a powerful 3-star star beast. Of course, after killing many 2-star star beasts, he had successfully advanced to 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. If not, he wouldn't dare to tackle this 3-star star beast. 3-star advanced stage star beasts were the most powerful presence in the outer circle. They usually occupied an entire area and proclaimed themselves the king of their territory. They were extremely strong. Ordinary 3-star martial warriors could be in trouble if they met one of these beasts. However, Wang Ting wasn't afraid. When he saw the giant python slashing its tail at him, he didn't dodge. Earth force surged out of his body and congregated into a shield in front of him. Earth element shield. Bang! The giant tail smashed onto the earth element shield. Wang Ting held his ground and observed the changes in his earth element shield. 1 second, 2 seconds. Crack! Crack. The earth element shield persevered for 5 seconds under the impact of the giant python's tail. In the end, it shattered into pieces and turned into tiny dots of light. Then, it dispersed into the air. By that time, Wang Ting had already shifted his body and appeared in another location. Hiss tilde, the giant python slowly wriggled its body on the huge tree. It turned its triangular snake head at Wang Ting and looked at him with a sinister gaze. Have a taste of my most powerful attack. Wang Ting spoke to himself. He held the battle sword in his hand, and the fire force surged out of his body. It congregated on the battle sword. A few seconds later, the fire force had almost turned solid. Flames burnt furiously. Sky cremating sword skill. Cremation. The sword slashed through the air. The sword light roared at the giant python like a fire dragon's breath. Hiss. The giant python seemed to have felt a strong sense of danger. It raised its head and hissed towards the sky, letting out a ray of ice blue light from its mouth like a fountain. Boom. The ice blue light merged with the sky full of flames. The giant python was engulfed in the roaring flames. It kept making shrill cries. Its huge body slammed down from the large tree trunk. It frantically rolled on the ground in an attempt to put out the flames, but it wasn't of much help. Boom. The trees around the two were all broken. The place was a huge mess. The giant python's struggles grew weaker and weaker as time passed. Now, it only wanted to run away, leaving a long brunt mark on the ground. It kept moving until it was unable to crawl anymore. It had lost all its vitality. Ice Force *35 blank attribute *30 beginner stage ice talent *20 35 points of Ice Force. My Ice Force is finally at the 2-star level. Wang Ting was elated when he felt the changes in his body. His 5 normal elements forces had already reached 3-star. It was good that his Ice Force had reached 2-star. It wasn't lagging too much. There are still 20 points of ice talent. Wang Ting looked at his attributes panel. Beginner stage ice talent, 33,300, It looked like he still had a long way to go before getting to the intermediate stage. On the other hand, he had 20 more blank attributes. All the blank attributes he got from killing the star beasts were used to raise his enlightenment. Recently, he had saved some of his blank attributes, so he had 125 points left. Wang Ting walked over and looked at the burnt corpse of the giant python with pity. The scales of this giant python were destroyed. What a waste. He didn't expect the last stance of the sky cremating sword skill to be so powerful. Even a 3-star advanced stage star beast was unable to resist it. All he could say was, terrifying. Wang Ting sensed the corpse, and a smile appeared on his face. He retrieved a star core from the body of the giant python. A 3-star star core. It was worth a lot of money. He examined it properly before placing it into the space ring. As for Starbone, there was no point thinking about it. Until now, despite killing a few hundred star beasts, Wang Ting didn't find any Starbone at all. Time passed slowly. It had been a month since Wang Ting came to the dark mist forest. At this moment, the moon hung high in the sky, and it was late at night. Wang Ting sat cross-legged on the crown of a huge tree. He was counting his spoils so far. Wang Ting's primary purpose of coming to the dark mist forest this time was to gain experience and improve his combat ability. When he was facing the star beasts, he didn't just kill them to get their attribute bubbles. He was practicing his battle techniques too. Phantom Ice Fist, Moving Mountain Blade Skill, Green Gale Claw, Earth Element Shield, Folding Waves Sword Skill, Sky Cremating Sword Skill, Steps of Gale. He left no one behind. Now, all his battle techniques had reached the perfected stage. He also finally understood the sword presence of the Fire Kirin sword skill. However, he hadn't even hit 10%. On the attributes panel, it showed that he was only at 5%. His scriptures were improving tremendously too. 4 skill scriptures only had the foundation, small achievement, big achievement, and perfected stages. His red flame scripture, defy scripture, and Earthler skill had already reached the perfected stage. His Wind Soul scripture was the only dark level scripture, and he had comprehended it to the big achievement stage. However, he would still need some time before he moved it to the perfected stage. Spiritual realm enlightenment was shocking once he started his cultivation. For martial warriors that didn't have high enlightenment, it was tough for them to reach the big achievement, much less the perfected stage, for their scriptures or battle techniques. Their speed of cultivation would be very slow too. However, for those talents with high enlightenment, practicing scriptures and battle techniques was as easy as eating and drinking. Wang Teng spent 1 month to reach this state. It seemed really fast, but compared to genuine talents, he might still be a little slow. The advantage of raising his scripture to the perfected stage was that his speed of extracting and refining his force had become faster. Talents were able to cultivate really quickly while normal martial warriors lagged a long way behind. This was the reason. Besides this, Wang Teng spent some spare time practicing his gun kung fu. He purposely looked for those fast and agile star beasts to test his skill. The effects were not bad. He just needed a lot of bullets. Gun kung fu, small achievement 25-100, gun kung fu was hard, so he only reached the small achievement stage. Next, he looked at the changes to his enlightenment and spirit. Enlightenment, spiritual realm, 15-100, spirit, spiritual realm, 5-100, these two attributes were even harder to increase. Fortunately, he had blank attributes, so he could use them. These all increased his combat ability. As for materials, Wang Teng's space ring was almost full. Sigh. Wang Teng couldn't help but sigh. He stretched his back and laid down on the crown of the tree, gazing at the bright and shiny moon in the air. His mood was excellent. He was a 3-star martial warrior now. Even more, he was a 3-star martial warrior who had 5 equally powerful element forces. Even if he met a 4-star martial warrior, Wang Teng would have a chance to fight with them. School is starting soon. I should go back, Wang Teng muttered to himself. Just as he was thinking about this, he sat up abruptly and looked in a certain direction. There's a movement. Wang Teng moved his body and hid behind the leaves. He concealed the aura around his body and remained dormant. He didn't expose himself at all. The sound of footsteps, the rustling of the leaves. The movement from afar was coming closer and closer. Who are they? Why are they in such a hurry? Did they meet a star beast? No, if they really met a star beast, why is there only the sound of human footsteps? Wang Teng frowned. All kinds of thoughts flashed past his mind quickly. #%. Hurry up and leave. A shout was suddenly heard. It was filled with panic. The Xingwu continent language. Wang Teng understood the meaning of the shout. At the same time, he confirmed that these people weren't humans from Earth. Also, it was obvious that they were in trouble. Wang Teng didn't have much compassion towards native Xingwu continent citizens. Hence, he continued hiding and observed them. A few figures were running frantically in the night. Soon, they came close to Wang Teng. One of the figures was extremely tall and bulky, almost 3 meters in height. However, the other person reached only 1.3 meters. These 2 people were 2 extremes. The other 3 people looked no different from normal humans. Giant, dwarf. The information of these 2 races appeared in Wang Teng's mind. Giants and dwarfs were 2 directly opposite races in the Xingwu continent. The giants were generally at least 2.5 meters in height, and all of them were bulky and muscular. They were natural frontline soldiers. The dwarfs were the exact opposite, they never grew above 1.5 meters in height. They were small and were known for their speed. They were natural assassins. Interesting. This should be a martial warrior team. Wang Teng was just thinking about this when he heard a scream of despair. One of the people from this small team suddenly got dragged into the dark and dense bushes at the side. Everyone only saw a black shadow flashing past. What is that? Wang Teng's expression changed. He immediately became serious. He didn't even see it clearly either. Spiritual sight. Wang Teng immediately activated his spiritual sight and scanned his surroundings. Where did it go? His eyes moved quickly. The first time, he didn't see anything. When he observed around him again at a slower speed, he finally noticed something abnormal. A ball of black light was hiding behind the bushes. It almost merged with the dark night sky. If the black area didn't have a faint glow around it, Wang Teng wouldn't have noticed that something was wrong even if he were to look at it a few more times. A black force glow? He was flabbergasted and puzzled. Don't go. The other people were astounded when they saw their companion being dragged into the dark. Someone wanted to help his friend, but he got pulled back. Alert! A lady's voice was heard. The group immediately formed a circle. They had their backs to one another as they kept a vigilant eye on their surroundings. All the sound seemed to have disappeared. Even the chirps of birds and insects couldn't be heard. There was dead silence. It must be a dark apparition. We won't be able to escape. Death is the only route left. We must fight with it. That way, we might have a chance to live. Damn it, why's there a dark apparition here? This is a serious matter. One of us must remain alive to deliver this piece of news. The group kept talking while looking for any changes. Dark apparition. Wang Teng was stunned. This was another new term. He had no idea what it was. From their tone, this dark apparition sounded terrifying. Its appearance must be grave since they wanted to deliver the news back. Is that black light the dark apparition? Wang Teng had only looked away for 1 minute. When he turned back to the area again, the black ball of light was gone. He was so shocked that he felt cold sweat on his body. Chapter 144. Ghostface. Wang Teng had lost sight of the dark apparition. He scanned his surroundings in panic, wanting to find it again. As seconds ticked by, his expression grew uglier and uglier. That damn thing had disappeared. Silence. Dead silence. He could hear the sound of the wind around him. It sounded like someone sobbing. At that moment, rustling sounds suddenly resounded from the dense forest surrounding him. A mist was starting to appear in the dark mist forest again. Damn it! Wang Teng heard the four-man team below cursing in low voices. In this eerie atmosphere, they fell into extreme uneasiness. We shouldn't wait here without doing anything. We must retreat. No, once we separate, we will be killed one by one. The longer they waited, the more agitated they felt. Some people from the team didn't want to wait for their deaths, but retreating was obviously a bad idea. The dark apparition hiding in the shadows was like an extremely patient hunter. It might be waiting for the four men to separate. They didn't need to stay too far apart. They just needed to stop pasting their backs against each other, and it would have a chance to attack them. Where did it go? Wang Teng was also affected by the eerie atmosphere. He felt tense and nervous as he searched for traces of the dark apparition everywhere. Something just doesn't feel right. In an instant, he was on tenterhooks. He turned his neck slowly. When he reached 45 degrees, he finally saw a face that was inches away from his eyes. A creature that looked like a human was hanging upside down on a branch. It was clutching the tree branch with its limbs tightly as it stared straight at Wang Teng. What face was it? A ghost face. It was an ugly and hideous ghost face. Its eyes were scarlet and muddy. Its face was covered with black stripes, and dark green vessels were popping out all over its forehead. It looked both like a monkey and a human. It was bizarre and horrifying. No wonder he couldn't find it. This fellow had discovered him and even sneaked up on him. F***K. Wang Teng's pupils constricted to needles. He cursed and poured out his spiritual power without thinking, forming a pushing force. Boom! The dark apparition pounced on Wang Teng in his face. However, it didn't expect this human to create an invisible pushing force, causing it to fly out. Wang Teng used the pushing force to retreat quickly. He landed on the ground. The four people below were stunned. This scene was too abrupt. They didn't know what had happened, yet a figure had already flown down from the tree. "Who are you?" one of the people below shouted. This voice belonged to the only lady on the team. She was using the Xingwu continent's common language. "This is not the time to care about who I am. Let's take care of this damn thing first," Wang Teng also replied in the Xingwu continent's common language. After he finished speaking, he immediately looked in the direction where the dark apparition flew out from. However, it had disappeared once again from Wang Teng's vision. Luo Ya, this fellow can't be trusted. He was hiding suspiciously on the tree. We don't know whether he's a friend or foe. If he hadn't been forced out by the dark apparition, he might still be waiting to sneak an attack on us, the other male human in the team said. We don't have a choice. Let's take care of the dark apparition first, Luo Ya, who was the leader of this team, said firmly. The man stopped talking. He just reminded Luo Ya so that she could be prepared. Be careful. It's above you. Wang Teng suddenly shouted. He didn't hesitate. Almost immediately, while shouting, he clutched the battle sword in his hand, and a fiery red force exploded out of his body. He slashed his sword in the air above their heads. Screech. A furious howl. Wang Ting saw the dark apparition pushing its palm forward. Then, with a flash of black, it shattered his sword light. The other 4 people were shocked. However, they were experienced martial warriors, so they quickly launched their attacks. The moment Wang Ting's attack got diffused, 4 different attacks ensued. Slash. Wang Ting saw the black shadow flickering. Then, it disappeared under the attack of the 4 people. The sound of the wind was strong. He felt a strong wind coming from behind him. Wang Teng didn't turn around, but the strong wind still wasn't able to hurt him at all. Clang. 6 flying daggers shuttled back and forth in the dark. It formed a defense wall behind him that he was able to use to attack his opponent too. The strong gale only managed to strike the flying daggers. When they collided, sparks were formed. Wang Ting turned around and saw the black shadow landing on all 4s on the ground. Its pitch-black claws were razor-sharp, and its speed was incredible. If his flying daggers hadn't blocked the attack just now, that claw would have been able to penetrate his heart and turn it cold. Once the dark apparition noticed that it couldn't kill Wang Ting in a single strike, it fled far away. It used its frightening speed and unpredictable movements in the dark to disappear in the blink of an eye. Wang Teng's expression was ugly. He felt really fortunate. This damn creature was so hard to deal with. He needed to focus his full attention and use everything he had. He was able to see the dark apparition with his spiritual sight, but it traveled at high speed in the dark and kept changing its position. Also, it had a mysterious talent that allowed it to merge into the dark environment. If he didn't pay attention, he would lose track of it. You can see it. The lady called Luo Ya exclaimed in surprise. 2 times. He reminded them once and evaded the attack of the dark apparition the other time. This was definitely not luck. The man in front of her was able to see the dark apparition. Luo Ya was certain of it. I'll remind you. Wang Ting didn't say much, but his answer was a confirmation of her guess. Luo Ya nodded. She stopped probing, but a glint of happiness flashed past her eyes. Her teammates appeared delighted too. With someone who was able to see the dark apparition helping them, they might really be able to escape unscathed from this crisis. Luo Ya. Suddenly, in this quiet environment, a weak voice was heard among the bushes at the side. Liao Long. Luo Ya and her teammates exclaimed in shock. Save me, save me. A black figure crawled out of the bushes. His voice was extremely hoarse and weak. Half of his body was still behind the bushes, and only his upper body could be seen. He stretched his hand towards Luo Ya and her teammates like a person on the brink of death, begging for someone to help him. Mist was everywhere. His face was shrouded in the shadow. They couldn't see it clearly. Liao Long, this is great. You're not dead. One of Luo Ya's teammates wanted to go forward, but the giant pulled him back. Kuan Chi, what are you doing? Liao Long is injured. We need to save him, the man who got stopped said frantically. Don't go. Something isn't right, the giant, Kuan Chi, said in a rough voice. Wang Ting was about to remind them. With the help of his spiritual sight, he could see black lights shining around Liao Long. It was the same as the dark apparition. What's going on? Wang Ting turned serious. He couldn't understand the situation. Save me. Liao Long was still pleading for help in a sorrowful voice. His companions couldn't bear to see him like this. While everyone was hesitating, Luo Ya walked towards him. Let me take a look. Luo Ya, don't go. The dwarf wanted to stop her, but he saw her waving her hands secretly behind her back. Chapter 145, Assimilation. Liao Long, are you alright? Luo Yue walked towards Liao Long and asked in concern. Where are you hurt? Do you have healing medicine? You can't move. Don't worry, we will save you and bring you back. We are comrades. She moved closer step by step. Towards the end, her voice got gentler, as if she was comforting the other person. Save me, Liao Long was still pleading for help. However, his voice was getting weaker. He was breathing in more air than he breathed out, as though he would die at any moment. Don't worry. I'll save you immediately. As Luo Yue spoke, they were already less than 5 meters away from each other. The moment she finished speaking, she suddenly shot forward. She rushed in front of the other party in an instant. Wang Teng only saw a sharp sword light flashing in the dark. The speed of her attack was extremely fast. It felt as though the moment she took her sword out of its sheath, she had already stabbed Liao Long. Luo Yue. Her 3 teammates' expressions changed. They didn't expect Luo Yue to attack Liao Long. They had also noticed something amiss, but they didn't want to attack Liao Long. After all, he had been their teammate for many years. Luo Yue's expression didn't change, though. A cold glint flashed past her eyes as she stabbed her long sword viciously into Liao Long's body. She didn't care about their relationship at all. Wang Teng's eyes widened. This lady left a strong impression on him. She was sharp, decisive, and ruthless. Wang Teng was able to notice the difference with the help of his spiritual sight. However, Luo Yue acted solely based on her observation and judgment. It wasn't easy for her to make such a decision. At first, he wanted to remind the other party, but when he noticed that she had another motive, he decided to wait and see. Although the result was unexpected, he wasn't too shocked. In the next instant, Luo Yue's teammates' expressions changed again. They shouted at her. Dodge. Almost at the same time, Luo Yue had already started moving. While the sword light slashed through the air, she tilted her body slightly. She pierced her battle sword behind her closer to her right side. This was what I was waiting for. There was a cold smile at the edge of her lips. She seemed to have been saving her energy for a long time. At this moment, her force exploded, and the sword rays glowed brightly. It slashed towards the dark apparition with a loud sound. Howl. The dark apparition was finally hit. It let out a painful wail as blood spurted out of its chest. It flew backward. Let me kill you when you're injured. Wang Teng moved his body and stabbed the dark apparition with his battle sword. Slash. The sword penetrated the heart of the dark apparition. The 3 members of Luo Yue's team followed closely behind him. The giant martial warrior held his battle mace and slammed it on the dark apparition's head. Splat. It shattered into pieces like a watermelon. Such violence. Wang Ting hurriedly jumped back to evade the red and white matter splattering everywhere. You are a step too late. The giant martial warrior, Kuan Chi, laughed while speaking to his other 2 teammates. Kuan Chi, how did you react so quickly today? The dwarf martial warrior was frustrated, but he was curious too. I've been staring at this young man. The moment he moved, I moved too, Kuan Chi said smartly. You can do this. The dwarf and the other man exchanged glances with each other. Wang Teng looked at Kuan Chi in surprise when he heard this. This big guy wasn't stupid. Boom. Just when everyone thought that the trouble was solved, blood spurted out of Luo Yue's back. Her entire body flew out. Luo Yue. Kuan Chi and the other people screamed in shock as their expressions changed. They looked at Liao Long. He was actually standing up in an extremely weird posture. His actions were a little stiff. The top half of his body was slouching, his shoulders were bent, and his joints were cracking loudly. He staggered as he stood up. No one, including Wang Teng, saw how Luo Yue was attacked. Kuan Chi and the other 2 people rushed over and stood in front of Luo Yue to protect her. Luo Yue, how are you? Cough. Fortunately, I managed to block some of the damage. I won't die yet. Luo Yue crawled up from the ground with difficulty. Her left arm was injured, most likely fractured. If she didn't manage to defend herself just now, that attack would have cost her her life. Be careful of that thing. He seemed to have been assimilated. Luo Yue's expression was serious. She thought for a moment before she managed to squeeze out this descriptive word. They had heard of the dark apparition before, but this was their first time meeting one. As for Liao Long's current condition, they had never heard nor seen it before. Everyone looked at Liao Long. At this moment, they finally saw his face. Liao Long's face was very similar to the dark apparition's face. His eyes were scarlet, and strange black stripes covered his face. The dark green veins were popping out of his forehead, wriggling like snakes. It looked disgusting and terrifying. Liao Long's neck was severely mangled. Half of it was already bitten off. Fresh blood flowed out of his wound and trickled down his chest, thigh, and legs. It dripped onto the ground from his trouser legs. Stabbing his heart is useless. We need to smash his head, Luo Yue reminded everyone. Wang Ting nodded. Luo Yue had already stabbed Liao Long's heart. However, the other party didn't die and even managed to retaliate. What on earth is this? Kuan Chi and the other people looked at Liao Long with complicated expressions. They had sorrow on their faces as they gritted their teeth and cursed uncontrollably. Kill it. This thing is no longer your teammate, Wang Ting said. You don't need to tell us. Let our team deal with this. Kuan Chi glared at Wang Ting and shouted in anger. Sure, Wang Ting said indifferently. Liao Long staggered as he stood on the spot. Suddenly, it pounced forward without any warning. The clumsy movement just now had disappeared completely as it charged at Kuan Chi and his teammates at an unprecedented speed. It started running on all fours like the dark apparition. Luo Yue, Kuan Chi, and their teammates released their full power. They wanted to send their teammate off personally and not let him remain as a monster. However, the dark apparition was really difficult to deal with. They had already experienced it before. The Liao Long in front of them was assimilating into a dark apparition. As time passed, it became more and more similar to a dark apparition. Darkness was its element. The martial warriors found it hard to tackle it. Wang Ting didn't move. His gaze landed on the dark apparition that was already killed. Dark Force *5 Beginner Stage Dark Talent *1 Spirit *8 3 bubbles were floating above the corpse. These 3 bubbles were different from the bubbles in the past. They were giving off a black glow. Killing dark apparitions would drop attribute bubbles too. Dark Force. Dark Talent. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. There were such attributes too. If he picked them up, would he become a dark apparition? Wang Ting had his concerns. He couldn't help but hesitate. The system won't harm me, right? Eventually, he gritted his teeth and picked up the 3 bubbles. As the beginner stage dark talent merged into his body, Wang Ting felt a sense of intimacy with the darkness around him. It was as if he was able to turn invisible when he stood in the dark. No one would be able to find him. Is this the dark talent? There's dark force too. Wang Ting felt a weak force in his force nucleus. He could sense that the dark force was different from the 5 elements and the other mutated forces. He couldn't state what exactly it was, but it was a natural difference. The dark force was colder and eerier. The 5 elements forces and mutated forces, even the ice force, had a warm and vibrant feel. Finally, it was the spirit attribute. The dark apparition had dropped 8 points of spirit. It was a surprise for Wang Ting. After all, no martial warriors had dropped this much spirit before. Is there something special about dark apparitions? He thought to himself. Chapter 146. Reporting just as he was wondering why the dark apparition had dropped so many points of spirit, Wang Ting remembered the insane and emotionless gaze in that pair of scarlet eyes. An idea flashed through his mind. Mental patients dropped spirit attributes. Is there a similarity between dark apparitions and mental patients? Obviously, there is. Both their mental states don't seem normal. Wang Ting felt that he had found the key point. He touched his chin and nodded to himself, complimenting himself for his cleverness. Luo Yue and her teammates were having a heated battle behind him. It was getting fiercer and fiercer. Wang Ting had his back towards them. He didn't even want to care about them at all. They told him that they didn't need his help, so they couldn't blame him for not lending them a hand. He continued studying the dark talent and the dark force. This dark force made him very curious. Wang Teng could easily differentiate it from the other forces. He could even generalize the other forces as light forces. Of course, this was Wang Teng's thinking. At that moment, he heard the shrill sound of air breaking behind him. Luo Yue opened her mouth to warn him. However, there seemed to be eyes on Wang Teng's back. He didn't turn around. Instead, his spiritual power gushed out, and the black shadow behind him was thrown out. Careful. Luo Yue finally finished her sentence. She looked at Liao Long, who got thrown off his feet and was slightly stunned. This is a good chance. It was Kuan Chi again. The muscular giant was a big smart guy. He immediately grabbed this opportunity and launched an attack on the dark apparition. Boom! He struck out with his battle mace. Liao Long burst into pieces on the spot. KO. An intense battle ended without any real threat. Wang Teng finally turned around. He saw Luo Yue and her teammates panting heavily in a bedraggled state. They were all injured, and blood covered their bodies. Although their comrade was dead, he had left them a beautiful memory. Wang Ting looked at the attribute bubbles dropped beside Liao Long's body. He picked them up. Dark Force *4 Spirit *10 points of Spirit attribute. This is even more than the dark apparition from before. Despite being astounded, Wang Ting accepted them with a smile. After all, it was a happy thing for him. He also received another 4 points of Dark Force. The Dark Force in his Force nucleus got a little stronger. Wang Ting smiled at Luo Yue and her teammates as he said, TSK, why do you all look so disheveled? H, don't talk nonsense. Luo Yue glared at him. Wang Ting teased them, but he noticed that their expressions weren't looking good. Thus, he changed the topic and said, do you know what this dark apparition was? Chimph, why should we tell you? Luo Yue glared at him from the corner of her eyes. F***K, if I hadn't helped you just now, you all might have been dead by now, Wang Ting said furiously. Bullshit. The dark apparition forced you to come down. If not, you won't have acted, the dwarf also replied in anger. Sigh, what do you mean? I was resting peacefully on the tree. You were the ones who attracted the dark apparition here. Why are you still complaining? Wang Ting glared at him. You what you? All right. Since this is a misunderstanding, there's no point in arguing. A dark apparition appeared here. We should hurry up and get rid of its corpse. To prevent changes, let's leave as quickly as possible, said Luo Yue. Wang Teng and the dwarf stopped talking. He looked at Luo Yue and her teammates as they cut a piece of meat off the body of the dark apparition before burning the corpse. No traces were left. However, when they were burning Liao Long's body, they did so with a heavy heart. Let's go. Luo Yue said, let's leave this place first. I know what you want to ask, but we don't know much either. After we go back to the city and report this matter, you might be able to get some insider information from the military. The military? Wang Teng frowned. Are you referring to Xingwu continent's military or Earth's military? While he was speaking, he remained vigilant. Although both parties were on peaceful terms, he didn't know if Luo Yue and her teammates would suddenly change their minds. We need to inform both parties. Luo Yue gave Wang Teng a meaningful glance. Both. Wang Teng instantly got dumbstruck. By right, Luo Yue and her teammates were citizens of the Xingwu continent. Naturally, they should inform the Xingwu continent's military. That's right. More than 20 years ago, the higher authorities gave us an order. Once we discover the presence of dark apparitions, we need to inform both militaries. Wang Teng didn't expect this answer. The military is keeping a close watch on dark apparitions. This was a question, but his tone was certain. Indeed. Dark apparitions are extremely dangerous. Also, recently, more and more dark apparitions have appeared in the Xingwu continent. Many martial warriors got killed by them. The events incited fear in the masses, Luo Yue said. Dark apparitions only appeared in the recent years. Wang Teng asked. Not necessary. They just appeared more frequently in recent years, so the military made their presence public. It was said that they did appear in the past, but not many people knew about them, Luo said. Let's walk and talk. This is an important matter. We need to hurry back as soon as possible. She called everyone to leave as she spoke. While Wang Ting hesitated, she said, even if you don't go to the military today, they will look for you. It looks like they take dark apparitions very seriously. Wang Ting didn't doubt Luo Ya's words. He didn't hesitate anymore and followed them. A few hours later, the group left the dark mist forest under the night sky. They took their vehicles from the dark mist town and drove back to Yong City. It was worth mentioning that Luo Ya and her team came from Yong City too. Actually, this was because Yong City was the only big city in this area. The other cities were relatively far away. If those people wanted to enter the dark mist forest, they would use other entrances. After returning to Yong City, Wang Teng and Luo Ya's team headed directly to the military district. Of course, they split up. Luo Ya and her team went to look for the Xingwu continent's military while Wang Teng headed to the camp of the Earth's military. Before he left, he even inquired about the location of the military camp. He didn't know where they were stationed. South District of Yong City, at a forbidden section of the military camp. The moment Wang Teng reached the entrance, he was stopped. Stop right there. A cold shout was heard. The next moment, more than 10 muzzles pointed at Wang Teng. Wang Teng immediately raised his hands to show that he was harmless. Don't shoot, don't shoot. I'm a martial warrior from Jisin Martial House. I came here because I have something very important to report. A martial warrior from Jisin Martial House. The guards' expressions softened a little. However, they didn't let down their guards. Take out your credentials and cooperate with our inspection. Wang Ting took out his martial warrior credential. He was afraid that the guards would accidentally fire and kill him if they saw him hesitate. He wouldn't know what to do if that happened. After a round of strict inspection, they confirmed Wang Ting's identity and shifted the muzzles away. What do you have to report? One of the guards asked. Dark apparition. The guard's expression changed when he heard these two words. He said in a serious tone, follow me. Chapter 147, Secret. Wang Ting was brought to a meeting room in the military camp, where he was received by another person. The soldier attending to him had informed the higher authorities. He asked Wang Ting to wait in the room. Wang Ting waited for approximately 10 minutes before hearing hurried footsteps outside the door. There seemed to be more than one person. The next instant, the huge door opened. Did you say that you met a dark apparition in the dark mist forest? The voice was heard before the person appeared. A refined figure with a powerful aura dressed in a military uniform walked in with large strides. Wang Ting couldn't help but look at him. This is the top person in charge of our military district, General Shun. The soldier that received Wang Ting introduced the person to him. General Shun. Wang Ting immediately stood up and greeted him with respect. Yes, I met a dark apparition with another Xingwu continent martial warrior team in the dark mist forest. He explained what happened in detail before the other party could ask him. After he finished, Wang Ting took out the piece of meat he cut off from the dark apparition. I cut this from the dark apparition's body. It's inconvenient to bring the entire corpse back, so we burnt it into ashes. You can inspect this piece. What you did is right. If you don't get rid of the dark apparition's body immediately, it will infect the other living things. General Shen nodded. Then, he spoke to a soldier beside him, Little Li, bring this for examination. The soldier immediately took the piece of meat and left. Did you say that there was a Xingwu continent martial warrior team with you? General Shen asked. Yes, they were the ones who discovered the dark apparition first and coincidentally led it to my hiding place. The dark apparition saw me, so I had to act, said Wang Teng. Have they reported it to the Xingwu continent's military? General Shen asked. Yes, after we entered the city, we parted ways. They went to the Xingwu continent's military district while I came here. Wang Teng nodded. After some time, the soldier called Little Li came back. He was holding a report in his hand, which he passed to General Shen. It's indeed a dark apparition. General Shen turned serious. He said to Wang Ting, "Thank you for reporting this. This is very important." "You're too polite." Wang Ting felt overwhelmed by his kind attitude. "Relax, I don't eat humans." General Shen smiled. "You're Wang Ting, right? I heard from old Fu that the top scholar of the martial arts exam in Donghai this year is a rare genius. It must be you." "Old Fu?" Wang Ting was confused. "Fu Tiandao, the principal of Donghai's Jisin Martial House," General Shen explained. "Oh, you know our principal," replied Wang Ting. "Ha ha ha, we are old friends," General Shen smiled and said. "You're from Donghai too?" Wang Ting asked again. "That's right." The two of them chatted for some time. Wang Ting hesitated before asking, "General Shen, what is this dark apparition? You must have heard about the increase in enrollment for the martial arts exam this year, right?" General Shen didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he looked at Wang Ting meaningfully. Could it be? Wang Ting's expression changed. "That's right, it's exactly what you think. We need to deal with the dark apparitions," General Shen said. "Why? Even if there's a need to deal with the dark apparitions, it's Xingwu Continent's job. Why do we need to waste so much effort? Dark apparitions are so dangerous. Many martial warriors must have died in their hands." Wang Ting couldn't help but reason with him. "We need to enroll more martial disciples because many martial warriors have been sacrificed." As for the reason, General Shen stared at Wang Ting before continuing, "I can only tell you that our Earth isn't safe either. If we don't take the necessary precautions, we will become victims sooner or later." The Earth is not safe. In an instant, Wang Ting's mind cleared up. He understood. He understood everything. Why was the dimensional rift so heavily guarded? Why were there military troops stationed in the Xingwu continent? Why was there an increased enrollment for the martial arts exam? The many doubts he had were finally answered. If not, why do you think martial warriors enjoy such a high status? The more benefits they enjoy, the greater their responsibility, General Shen said. "I understand." Wang Ting's mouth was a little dry. He realized that he seemed to have discovered some huge secret. His heart felt really heavy. "Don't worry too much. The Earth is safe for now. We have martial warriors at the front line, so the situation is under control." General Shen thought that he was worried about the safety of the Earth, so he consoled Wang Ting. "Do students like us have to go to the front line and fight with dark apparitions in the future?" Wang Ting asked. "Not necessary. Some martial arts students won't choose the actual combat path. They might take office jobs in the future. They don't need to go to the front line," General Shen explained patiently. Wang Ting remained silent for some time. Then, he asked, "What's the front line like?" "Once you enter university, you will have a chance to see it. Not all dark apparitions are like the ones you met. That's just the lowest level one. There are higher level dark apparitions too. Those are the real frightening things," General Shen said. "Can I ask one last question?" "Go ahead." "Where do dark apparitions come from?" Wang Ting asked. This time, General Shen hesitated for a few seconds. Finally, he said, "Never mind, you will know it sooner or later. They come from the abyss." "Abyss?" Wang Ting couldn't help but repeat. General Shen didn't continue speaking. Wang Ting was sensible and didn't probe further either. He stood up and took his leave. "We'll meet again if fate allows it." General Shen stood up. The soldier who received Wang Ting sent him to the gates of the military district. "Thank you, you can stop here," Wang Ting said. "This is the first time I saw General Shen talking to someone unfamiliar for such a long time," the soldier smiled and said. "Should I feel honored?" Wang Ting looked deep into the military district. The soldier who received him looked at him ambiguously. He didn't speak anymore, though. He waved at Wang Ting and turned around to walk back to the military camp. Since Wang Ting had returned to Yong City, he decided to go back to Earth. As for the dark apparition, the military would take care of it. He couldn't be of any help anyway. If the sky fell, the tall people would hold on to it. Dimensional rift. Wang Ting stayed outside the dimensional rift for some time and picked up another round of space attributes. Then, he left in satisfaction. Space *1. 5 He returned to his rented house in the university town. Wang Ting had already taken off his battle uniform. He carried his weapon carrier casket and looked worn and weary. After the series of events, it was already 8 in the morning. The 3 ladies next door were just leaving for work. They coincidentally saw Wang Ting, who was opening his door. Wang Ting! Yang Xin shouted with uncertainty. She hadn't seen Wang Ting in a month. She knocked on his door a few times and wanted to ask him out to play. However, Wang Ting wasn't home. She thought that he was ignoring her and felt dejected for some time. Now that she saw Wang Ting, he seemed to have just come back from a trip. Chapter 148, Sale. Wang Ting had just taken out his keys and was opening the door when he heard someone calling his name. He turned around and looked back. When he saw who it was, he smiled and said, "So, it's you guys. Are you leaving for work?" "Yes." "You just came back from a trip?" asked Yang Xin. Wang Ting nodded. "Yes, I was out for a month and just returned." No wonder no one answered. "We knocked on your door a few times," Sun Xiuyun exclaimed. "Junior brother Wang, do you know that our little Xinshin thought that you were ignoring her when you didn't answer the door?" She was so sad. Li Qian didn't forget to tease her roommate. "Hey, what are you saying?" Yang Xin's face blushed red like a peach. She rushed forward and wanted to cover her bestie's mouth. "Artilda murder," Li Qian shouted and moved aside to evade Yang Xin. "Don't mind her. She's talking nonsense," Yang Xin said to Wang Ting shyly. "It's all right." "Then, we will be leaving for work," Yang Xin said. "All right." Wang Ting watched the 3 ladies as they left. He shook his head and walked into the courtyard, closing the door behind him. He bathed and had a comfortable sleep. When he got up, he felt reinvigorated. The exhaustion on his body was completely gone. In the afternoon, Wang Ting slowly headed to Jisin Martial House. He had killed a huge number of star beasts during his trip to the Xingwu continent, and his space ring was packed with all kinds of star beast materials. He needed to get rid of them as quickly as possible. However, the space ring was a precious item and came from an unknown source. Thus, he mustn't expose it. Hence, before he left, he took out a portion of the star beast materials and stuffed them into a big bag. Then, he brought it to the Jisin Martial House to trade. 2 hours later, he came out of Jisin Martial House with a smile on his face. It looked like his gains were not bad. For the next 2 days, Wang Ting continued taking out a portion of the star beast materials and pretended that he just came back from the Xingwu continent. He used the same method and brought the materials to Jisin Martial House to sell. "Hez here again. How many star beasts did Wang Ting kill? He has so many star beast materials. It has been 3 days. He brought so many ingredients every day. Even if he hides them in the Xingwu continent, he will need a cave. This is not the most important thing. The main thing is, he has only been to the Xingwu continent twice and has already killed so many star beasts. Are newbies nowadays all so powerful? Haha, I don't think so. I think only Wang Ting is so powerful." Surprised voices were heard continuously. Many people were flabbergasted when they saw Wang Ting bringing piles and piles of star beast materials to exchange or sell. On the 3rd day, even Lin Zhon and his teammates came because they heard the news. "Wang Ting, you went to the Xingwu continent alone and even killed so many star beasts." Lin Zhon looked at the big pile of star beast materials on the ground in astonishment. "Haha, I couldn't control myself, so I went." Wang Ting felt a little awkward. Lin Zhon had reminded him not to go to the Xingwu continent alone in the past. He promised him on the surface, yet he still went secretly. "Forget it. If I knew you were so powerful, I wouldn't have stopped you." Lin Zhon sighed. "Good riddance, brother Wang Ting, you must have earned a few 100 million. Liu Yang's eyes were glittering. "I earned quite a bit." Wang Ting didn't answer directly. "Where did you hide these things? How did you manage to collect so many before transporting them back?" Yang Jinming asked curiously. Wang Ting's heart stopped beating. He racked his mind before coming up with a reason. "I found a secluded cave and set some traps to prevent star beasts from getting in. You're really lucky. Other people have tried this before, but the locations all got taken by star beasts. You need to be careful next time, Yang Jinming replied. It seems like my luck is not bad. Wang Ting nodded as he pondered to himself. While the few of them were chatting, the staff had finished counting the materials. After selling his items in batches over the past few days, Wang Ting finally sold all the materials he collated. The space ring was cleared. He received a total of 580 million. It was unwise to look down on these materials just because they were one-star beast materials. If enough of them were gathered, you could earn a lot. Lin Zhon and his teammates pulled Wang Ting out and forced him to treat them when they saw how much he had earned. At a high-class restaurant, the few of them gathered around a table. There were all kinds of seafood, star beast meat, and fruits on the table. They heartily ate and enjoyed the extravagant meal. While dining, they talked about Wang Ting's experience during this trip to the Xingwu continent. Wang Ting told them about the dark apparition. You actually met that thing, Lin Zhon said with a stern expression. Dark apparitions are extremely dangerous. Did you get hurt? Liu Yang asked in concern. I'm fine. There was another martial warriors team from the Xingwu continent at that time. They got hurt, Wang Ting replied. They thought that Wang Ting was able to return to Earth safely because of the martial warrior team's help, so they commented on his luck again. I wonder if you're unlucky or lucky. Other people might not be able to have this experience even if they went to the Xingwu continent 10 times, but you had it on your first time. Fortunately, you are safe. Liu Yang was speechless. Haha, that can't be helped. I can't control it. Wang Ting laughed awkwardly. Did you report it to the military? Asked Lin Zhon. Yes. General Shun from Yong City came to look for me personally. General Shun? Lin Zhon was shocked. He exclaimed, you met him? He's the most powerful person in Yong City's military. It's hard to meet him. Maybe it's because they place high importance on dark apparitions. Wang Ting shook his head. Suddenly, he remembered something and asked, oh, do you know about the frontline battleground? You even know about the frontline battleground? Lin Zhon and his teammates looked at him in astonishment. They only got to know of this insider news after being in the martial warriors world for a few years. Wang Ting just entered the Xingwu continent twice, but he already knew so many things. They weren't looking down on Wang Ting. It was just that you wouldn't be able to get in touch with some things if you didn't reach a certain status. If your level was too low and you didn't have enough ability, knowing too many things wouldn't be an advantage. You might even lose your life because of it. General Shun told me, Wang Ting said. When he saw his teammates' expressions, he knew that this frontline battleground was not a trivial matter. No wonder. Lin Zhon and his team members were enlightened. At the same time, they felt even more astounded. General Shun told Wang Ting such things. This meant that he had high hopes for Wang Ting. If not, why would someone like him speak to an ordinary martial warrior? Since General Shun had already told him, they had nothing to hide. Lin Zhon contemplated for some time before answering. The frontline battleground is the source of the dark apparitions. The military stopped the invasion of dark apparitions there to prevent them from wreaking havoc. The source, abyss. Wang Ting said this word slowly. You know this too? General Shun told you? Lin Zhon asked. Of course. Who else could have told me? I don't have anything for you. This is all we know. What is the abyss? I'm not sure either. Lin Zhon shook his head. Wang Ting asked a few more questions, and Lin Zhon answered them selectively. However, they didn't do much. After finishing their meal, the group walked out of the restaurant and prepared to leave. We will be going to the Xingwu continent again soon. This time, we'll be heading to the middle circle. Do you want to go together? Lin Zhon asked before they parted. Middle circle. Wang Ting repeated. In his heart, he was shocked. He hesitated before saying, I'm starting school soon. I don't know if I will be able to find some time. We have to prepare first. Before leaving, we'll contact you again. You can decide if you want to go then, Lin Zhon said. Wang Ting nodded. He bade farewell to his teammates, But he didn't return to his rented house in the university town. Instead, he went to Fuhua Villa district. He went home. Chapter 149, Flames outside Fuhua Villa district. Wang Ting paid for his taxi and was just about to get down. At this moment, the driver suddenly said, "Something seems to have happened in the Fuhua Villa district. There are flames in front. I didn't know that accidents would happen in high-class districts too. Should I call the police?" "Forget it. The district's management should have called the police already. There's no one at the gantry," the driver was muttering to himself. Wang Ting only heard his first few sentences, though. After that, his expression changed, and he dashed down the car. He looked at the small district. Indeed, he saw a patch of flame rising up into the sky. Instantly, his expression underwent another change. The fire was in the direction of his house. Damn it! Wang Ting stomped his feet on the ground. Crack, boom. The sound of the air exploding resounded. Wang Ting had already turned into flashes of lingering shadows as he sped to his house. The driver was dumbstruck. He looked at Wang Ting's back view in a daze before exclaiming in astonishment, "Oh my God, this fellow is a martial warrior at such a young age. No wonder he can afford to live in a villa." The district was in a mess. It was noon, so many people were still at work. Most of the people at home were housewives and children. This huge fire had definitely attracted the attention of many house owners in this area. After calling the police, they rushed out of their houses and stood on their tiptoes as they looked in the direction of the fire. What happened? How did a fire start? Who knows? I was just preparing to take my afternoon nap when I saw the flames and rushed out. Did you call the management? They must have known about it already. Discussions were heard everywhere. People liked to watch a commotion, especially housewives. They were extremely bored. If they had things to chat about, they didn't know any other way to pass their time. This huge matter was enough for them to discuss for many days. "Babe, don't run around. It's very dangerous." "No, I want to take a look." What a huge fire. A young mother around 30 years old was pulling her son, who was about 7 years old. This naughty child was like a frisky husky. He wanted to go wherever the commotion was. In the end, he got beaten by his mother and cried. He finally stopped fooling around. Wang Ting ran past this mother and son at high speed. They only saw a flash of lingering shadow and the strong wind blowing past them. What was that just now? It looked like a person. This speed. He's a martial warrior. Mom, what's a martial warrior? Can you eat it? Is it nice? Stupid brat, don't spout nonsense. Martial warriors will run to your window in the middle of the night and eat humans. Are you afraid? Wang Ting. A martial warrior's sense of hearing was exceptional. When Wang Ting heard this sentence, he almost staggered and fell to the ground, even though he was in an emergency. Did you know that something happened to Wang Fugue's house? Ah, Wang Fugue, the nouveau riche dealing in property? Yes, that's him. I heard that he harmed someone in the past. The person's son became a martial warrior and came to take revenge. A martial warrior taking revenge? This is hard to manage. You're right. The martial warrior has the right to take revenge. That's why you shouldn't earn dishonest money. Wang Ting heard a few women talking when he ran past them. Wang Fugue. He felt slightly more relieved. It looked like his family wasn't in trouble. He knew Wang Fugue. Wang Shenghua had mentioned this person a few times at home. However, unlike the opinions of these few ladies, Wang Shenghua had mixed comments about him. Wang Fugue was born in a village. Everyone knew that a person born with a low status had a harder time if they wanted to be successful. It was more so for someone like him who wasn't educated and didn't have a family supporting him. He had to rely on himself. When he came to Donghai City, he started doing some small business. Gradually, he got to know some people in the underground world. That was when he began building his fortune. He built a name for himself, and ordinary people didn't dare to provoke him. However, after a few years, his reputation got cleared, and he changed. He started doing legal businesses and would occasionally attend some charity dinners. He donated vast sums of money each time. Even so, there were many people who looked down on him. They scoffed at his method of doing things. This was how humans were. They were always looking for a sense of superiority in other people. The wealthy looked down on the ordinary people who crawled up from the bottom. They felt that these people were nouveau riche. But, if you thought about it carefully, who didn't crawl up from the bottom? Zhu Yuanzhong was a beggar, but he still became an emperor in the end. Heroes could come from anywhere. Unfortunately, people nowadays had long forgotten this saying. Auntie Xiao, did you say that Wang Fugue is in trouble? Wang Ting stopped to confirm. Ayo, it's little Ting. You're back. The woman called Auntie Xiao looked at Wang Ting and started smiling brightly. This was the top scholar of the martial arts exam, a true blue martial warrior. There was no harm in forging a good relationship with him. She immediately replied, yes, I went over to take a look secretly. The martial warrior shouted it himself. He asked others not to interfere. Thank you. I thought that something happened to my family. Wang Ting nodded. He finally felt at ease. It isn't your family. However, you better rush home to take a look. Your house is so near. You might get implicated, Auntie Xiao reminded him kindly. You're right. I'll leave first. All right, hurry up and go. Auntie Xiao watched Wang Ting as he ran off. She couldn't help but sigh. She said to the women beside her, in the past, he was a playful rich second generation who liked to goof around and drink. I didn't expect him to change so much. Look at how polite he was just now. You're right. Wang Shengguo is a lucky man. His son is so promising. The Wang family doesn't have to worry about their future. A woman beside her agreed. Another woman said in envy, they don't have to worry. They might even be able to progress further. Sigh, look at Wang Ting. The brat at home only knows how to anger me, Auntie Xiao said with exasperation. Let me tell you, you should ask your husband to beat your son properly tonight. He will become obedient. If one beating isn't enough, do it a few more times. He would definitely turn obedient one day. Auntie Xiao nodded in deep thought. In a certain pub, a young man who was playing a game with some beauties suddenly shivered. What's wrong? Is the aircon too strong? The young man wondered curiously. Young Master Xiao, what's the matter? The beauty beside him asked. Nothing. Little beauty, let's continue playing. I'm coming, ha ha ha. Young Master Xiao, come and catch me. If you catch me, I will allow you to. Wang Fugue's house was engulfed in flames. The management staff stood around the house with fire extinguishers, but none of them dared to go forward. If the fire burned the surrounding objects, they would immediately put it out to prevent other houses from getting implicated. This was the best result. The martial warrior only wanted to take revenge on Wang Fugue's family. As long as they didn't extinguish the fire in Wang Fugue's house, the martial warrior wouldn't care about them. He had said so personally. However, when they looked at the scene in front of them, many people still found it hard to endure. A young man was holding a spear in his hand as he stood on the grass in front. Flames were circling the tip of the spear. He looked imposing. But, at this moment, the tip of the spear was pointed at a girl around 4 years old. Chapter 150. Chopped off your arm. Li Xiaomei stood in the crowd and looked at the crying girl sprawled on the ground. She felt her heart ache. Their family didn't have a deep relationship with Wang Fugue. They were only acquaintances. However, Li Xiaomei had some interactions with Wang Fugue's wife. Normally, they would drink tea and chat together. They would talk about topics only discussed between ladies. She didn't expect that lady to die in this fire. Li Xiaomei was very familiar with this young girl. In fact, she loved her dearly. This girl had not only lost her parents but she might be killed too. Doo-doo, Li Xiaomei couldn't bear it and rushed forward. She protected the girl behind her. Looking at the indifferent young man, she plucked up her courage and said, "She's just a child. Let her go. Auntie." Li. Sob. Doo-doo is scared. When the girl saw a familiar person, she immediately hugged Li Xiaomei's leg and started crying. Li Xiaomei hugged her with a painful expression on her face. She patted the girl and comforted her. Don't be scared. Auntie Lee is here. Move. A hint of struggle appeared in the indifferent young man's eyes. However, it was soon replaced by coldness. No matter how strong your hatred is, you shouldn't attack a child. She's innocent, Li Xiaomei said. My parents were innocent too. But they died under the hands of Wang Fuguei. At that time, no one spoke up for them, said the young man. Li Xiaomei didn't know what to say. She just stared at the young man in front of her. She could see the pain hiding behind his cold expression. Therefore, she wasn't able to stand on the moral high ground and reprimand the other party. Let her go. I won't kill you, the cold young man said. Li Xiaomei could feel the girl trembling in her arms. She hugged her tightly and gritted her teeth. She didn't say anything, nor did she move. I will kill you too. The young man released his aura. It bore down on Li Xiaomei's body. I'm terribly sorry for what happened to your parents, but the child is innocent. Li Xiaomei resisted the other party's aura with difficulty. Her face was pale, but composure persevered. There's no point in talking anymore. Since you don't want to move, I'll kill you too. The indifferent young man's face turned cold, and he stabbed his spear out. When Wang Teng came, this was the scene he saw. His pupils constricted into needle points. He was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. He let out a thunderous roar, "You're looking for death." Wang Teng pulled his battle sword out of the sheath, and sword light flashed through the air. Slash. The sword light arrived first, even though he had attacked later. An arm was severed from the body and sent flying into the air. The bystanders were stunned by this gruesome scene. They were at a loss for a second. Then, their faces turned pale, and they didn't dare to look anymore. Li Xiaomei pressed the girl's head down. She didn't want her to see this scene. Wang Ting's body moved. He appeared in front of Li Xiaomei. Son. Li Xiaomei heaved a sigh of relief in her heart when she saw Wang Ting's back view. Mom, it's all right. I'm here. Wang Ting turned around and smiled. Then, he looked at the young man coldly. I don't care about your grudges, but since you dared to attack my mother, I took your arm. Although the young man's arm was chopped, he just snorted in pain. When he got down to pick up his severed arm, large beads of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. However, he gritted his teeth tightly and looked at Wang Teng, unwilling to back down. Your attack had no killing intent. If not, I would have killed you. Are you unwilling to admit defeat? You are weaker than me now. There's no point in resisting. I will give you a chance and let you go today. When you feel that you can beat me, you can come and take revenge for your severed arm. My name is Wang Ting, Wang Teng scoffed and said. Wang Ting. The young man repeated the name in a hoarse voice. He looked at Wang Teng and said, My name is Yang Qing. I will remember this grudge. After he finished speaking, he picked up his arm and turned to leave. Wang Teng didn't stop him. To him, this young man was just a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior. He posed no threat. He was a 3-star martial warrior now. He would only become stronger in the future. Did he think that the young man would catch up with him? Haha, what a joke. As a bug, if he got surpassed by someone, he wouldn't have the face to continue living. Also, his mother shouldn't have interfered with the revenge of a martial warrior. That was the cause of everything. But, since his mother decided to do this, he had nothing to say. As her son, he could only accept her actions. After taking a few steps, Yang Qing suddenly turned around and asked, Is it worth it? He was asking Li Xiaomei. There was pent-up anger in his gaze that he couldn't get rid of. There's no such thing as worth it or not. I'm just following my heart. Li Xiaomei's expression softened a little as she said. Yang Qing stood on the spot and pondered for some time. Then, he nodded and left while staggering. Son, what if this person can't untangle the knot in his heart and find you for revenge in the future? Li Xiaomei asked him worriedly. Mom, are you asking me to kill him to solve all troubles? Wang Teng smiled as he asked. You little brat, I didn't say that. Li Xiaomei rolled her eyes. Am I that kind of person? At this moment, the management staff and the neighbors finally regained their composure. Their gazes landed on Wang Ting in unison. There was astonishment, fear, and respect in their eyes. He had chopped the person's arm so decisively without even blinking his eyes. "Are you afraid now?" Normal people like them had never seen this kind of scene before. Martial warriors. This was what a martial warrior was like. The other party came furiously to annihilate Wang Fuge's family. He burned the house and killed the people inside. In the end, Wang Ting chopped his arm and forced him back. The Wang family had given birth to the son of a dragon. Many people exclaimed as they felt envious of Wang Shengguo and his wife. Their ancestors must be elated to have a descendant like him. The police, City Protection Bureau, and ambulance arrived quickly. The fire at the scene was put out. 2 stretchers with white cloths covering them were transported out of the house and carried into the vehicles. Dudu had experienced so many things. She cried sorrowfully in Li Zumei's arms for a long time. Then, she fell asleep out of exhaustion. The police and the people from the City Protection Bureau were confirming the situation with the residents at the side. They were recording their statements. After they knew what happened, they came to Wang Ting's house. One of the people was the leader of No. 3 small team from the City Protection Bureau, Chai Yu. He was the one investigating the case on Mount Baoan. At this moment, though, his emotions were entirely different from the last time. He wasn't able to view Wang Ting as an ordinary high school student anymore. Wang Ting was the top scholar in the martial arts exam. He was a martial warrior, meaning many influential people knew him. Without a doubt, Chai Yu was almost certain that Wang Ting was the culprit of the Mount Baoan case. This fellow had disguised himself really well. But this matter could only end without a conclusion. There was no point in provoking a martial warrior with a huge potential for the sake of a few dead people. No matter how powerful the City Protection Bureau was, they wouldn't do such a stupid thing. "Leader Chai, we meet again." Wang Ting saw Chai Yu coming into his house, so he smiled and stood up. "This means that we are fated." Chai Yu smiled. However, he was cursing in his heart. "I came over because we had some questions about what happened just now." As Chai Yu got nearer, he released the aura belonging to a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. Even if he couldn't do anything to Wang Ting, he could let him suffer a little. Chai Yu thought to himself evilly. Wang Ting smiled. He took a step forward and released his aura of a 3-star martial warrior. There was killing intent in his aura. "Leader Chai, please ask away. I'll definitely cooperate with you and tell you everything I know." Chai Yu's expression changed slightly. At the moment, waves of emotions were churning in his heart. How did Wang Ting become so strong? This aura didn't belong to a newbie. Only someone who had been through numerous battles would possess such a powerful and malicious aura. Fighter martial warrior. This was a real fighter martial warrior. Chapter 151. Your mom is forever your mom. A fighter martial warrior didn't mean a martial warrior who knew how to fight. Martial warriors already possessed certain abilities. Which martial warrior didn't know how to fight? Compared to ordinary people, they were naturally beyond their reach. However, many martial warriors didn't want to go onto the fighter's path. They just treated the martial warrior path as an experience and used it to seek higher positions. It was like a degree. In many big companies, people with low education found it difficult to seek higher positions unless they were very competent and got promoted exclusively. But this was just the minority. Only people with a certain degree and decent capabilities could become directors or CEOs. In this martial arts era, many positions with real power could only be taken by martial warriors. The martial warriors who didn't participate in battles and took office positions were non-fighter martial warriors. Of course, the fighter martial warriors were slightly different from people like Chai Yu too. Chai Yu only apprehended criminals in the city. He had the ability, but he couldn't be compared to someone like Wang Ting, who had killed numerous star beasts in the Xingwu continent, or the martial warriors who fought with their lives on the battlefield. He could only be considered an actual combat martial warrior. Only someone who had experienced many battles was a fighter martial warrior. These two kinds of martial warriors might be on the same star level, but the true ability of fighter martial warriors was higher than actual combat martial warriors. If they had a duel, the fighter martial warriors would have an 80% chance of winning. This was why Chai Yu's expression changed abruptly when he sensed the aura on Wang Ting. He couldn't be wrong. This was definitely the aura of a fighter martial warrior. Also, Wang Ting had become a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. Chai Yu looked at the smiling young man standing in front of him. His throat suddenly felt a little dry. "Young Master Wang, you're too polite. This is just a formality. We only need to take your statement." Chai Yu swallowed his saliva secretly as he smiled in embarrassment and said. Chai Yu wasn't afraid of Wang Ting. The power of the City Protection Bureau couldn't be moved by a mere 3-star martial warrior. He just felt that there was no need to be on bad terms with this person. He recorded Wang Ting's statement absent-mindedly and then got up. He wanted to leave with his men. His subordinates beside him were shocked. What was wrong with their leader? This didn't seem like his usual self. "Oh right, this child," Chai Yu said hesitantly as he looked at Dudu, who was sleeping soundly in Li Zumei's arms. "This child just lost her parents. I am worried about her. Can you let her stay at my house for the time being?" Li Zumei asked. "Of course. Then I'll have to trouble Mrs. Wang to take care of her." Chai Yu smiled and replied politely. "If there's nothing else, well, leave first. Have a safe trip." Wang Ting sent them to the door and then returned to the living room. He looked at Li Zumei and asked, "Mom, what do you plan to do with Dudu?" Wang Ting knew the child in Li Zumei's arms. He couldn't help but sigh as he looked at her pitiful state and remembered her encounter. He didn't know what to do either. "Let her stay at our house first. In the past, I heard her mother saying that Wang Fugue's relatives aren't good people. After Wang Fugue got rich, they wanted to take advantage of him. They knew that Dudu was their only child, so some people wanted to arrange a child betrothal between her and their son. Others wanted Wang Fugue to adopt their son as his. What kind of people are they? What intention do they have? If Dudu landed in their hands, her future is hard to predict." Li Zumei was filled with righteous indignation as she spoke. She almost slammed the table and cursed. "Mph, these people don't have any capabilities, so they wanted to take the result of others." Wang Ting smiled. "Don't be angry. You don't even know them. There's no point. Since you're worried, we can let Dudu stay in our house. We can afford to feed another mouth. If those people dare to cause trouble, I will let them understand why the flower is red. You little brat. Ever since you started practicing martial arts, you have become more and more violent. Also, you chopped off that person's arm directly. I felt a chill in my heart. Aren't you worried about scaring your mother?" Li Zumei said angrily. "I was worried about your safety." Wang Ting laughed awkwardly. He felt a little guilty. He could kill others without blinking his eyes, but in front of Li Zumei, he couldn't stand up to her. "Your mom was forever your mom. Alright, I'm too lazy to lecture you. I don't care about anything, but you must ensure your safety," said Li Zumei. Okay. I will evade any dangers and make sure that I remain safe," Wang Ting promised hurriedly. Li Zumei nodded. "You have a few days until school starts. Don't run away now. Your grandfathers had already asked for you many times. Let's find a day to organize your graduation banquet." "All right." Wang Ting nodded. He asked, "Oh right, Mom, didn't I give you the consent to buy a house in Deer Garden? Why didn't you buy a house there? The security there is excellent. Something like this won't happen there." Li Zumei smiled uncontrollably when she heard this. "We went to take a look. We can afford the smaller apartments, but your dad wants to buy a villa. However, he didn't have enough money, so he couldn't buy it." She couldn't help but remember Wang Shengguo's frustrated look when they went to see the house that day. It was a rare sight. Wang Ting burst out laughing. So this was the reason. He asked, "How much does a villa cost there?" "The one that your dad had his eyes on is the same size as our current house. However, it costs 300 million. Your dad recently invested in a project, so he doesn't have much liquid capital," Li Zumei said. 300 million. The houses at Deer Garden were really expensive. Wang Ting was secretly shocked. However, he still said, let's go and take a look together tonight. I recently hit the jackpot. We can buy the villa immediately, and you can move over as soon as possible. It will make me less worried. He had just earned 500 million and needed to fork out 300 million already. It was always so easy to spend money. Son, did you hear me correctly? It's 300 million, not 30 million. Where did you get so much money? Li Xiaomei didn't take it to heart. She thought that Wang Ting had heard wrong. Your son is a martial warrior now. Earning 300 million is a simple task, Wang Ting said delightedly. Don't tease me. I know that martial warriors earn money easily, but you need time. Besides, your level has to be really high in order to earn more. You just became a martial warrior not long ago. How can you earn so much money so quickly? Li Xiaomei refused to believe him. I'm very strong. Forget it, there's no point in saying too much. If you don't believe me, let me show you. Wang Ting took out his phone and showed Li Xiaomei his bank balance. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. 580 million. Li Xiaomei was confused. She looked at the number on the phone and started counting it again. Then, she exclaimed in astonishment, "You really have so much money, how did you do it?" She had seen such large amounts of money before, but this money was earned by her son. Also, he only had a short time to make this amount of money. She found it unrealistic. You know that the principal of Jisin Martial House put me in a powerful elite martial warrior team. They brought me to the Xingwu continent, and we killed many rare star beasts there. The materials on these star beasts were sold at high prices. I got this money after splitting the profits. Wang Ting pulled out Lin Zhon and his teammates. He knew that Li Xiaomei would only feel at ease if he said that he went out with an elite martial warriors team. Chapter 152. Everyone has it tough. You can only save yourself. Wang Ting had to explain for a long time before he finally made Li Xiaomei accept the fact that he had earned 580 million in a month. Li Xiaomei took the phone and counted the numbers again and again. She didn't seem tired of doing it. I guess my mother is a money lover, Wang Ting thought to himself helplessly as he stood at the side. In the afternoon, he decided to stay at home to accompany Li Xiaomei. After what she experienced, even if Li Xiaomei remained calm on the surface, Wang Ting could tell that her heart wasn't as peaceful as her face. Li Xiaomei didn't say anything, so Wang Ting wouldn't bring it out directly. His mother had her pride too. Yang Qing staggered as he walked on a small path in the mountain. His wound had stopped bleeding, but his face was extremely pale because of the loss of blood. He carried his broken arm in his left hand and gritted his teeth as he walked up the mountain. Half an hour later, he stopped. In front of a tomb, Yang Qing walked forward and dropped to his knees. He looked at the tombstone in front of him in silence. He kneeled until the sun set. Then, he finally opened his mouth and said in a hoarse voice, "Dad, Mom, was I wrong? Maybe I shouldn't have attacked the young girl. But, I feel so much hatred. Why are the evil people still living freely while I have to guard your tombs and suffer terribly every day? What did I do wrong by killing them?" Yang Qing looked up at the sky and screamed. No outsiders would be able to understand his pain. The next second, he started choking with sobs. He kneeled in front of the tomb and cried like a homeless child. Buddhism had this saying, "Everyone has it tough. You can only save yourself." No one knew if Yang Qing would be able to save himself at this moment. At night, at 7 o'clock, Wang Shengguo finally came home. Li Xiaomei hadn't told him the afternoon's events, so he was still clueless. When he walked into his house and saw the little girl sitting quietly on the sofa, he was stunned. "Dudu?" He seemed a little uncertain. He hurriedly shouted at Li Xiaomei in the kitchen, "Dear, what happened? Keep your voice down. Don't scare the child." Li Xiaomei rushed out of the kitchen and replied angrily, "All right, I'll be quieter." Wang Shengguo immediately lowered his tone and asked in a soft voice, "If I remember correctly, that is Wang Fuge's daughter, right? Why is she in our house?" "Wang Fuge's family is gone." Li Xiaomei sighed. "Gone?" Wang Shengguo repeated in confusion. "What does she mean? Why can't I understand?" "Yes." Li Xiaomei nodded. Then, she told Wang Shengwa the whole story. This is a huge matter. Why didn't you tell me? Also, why did you rush forward? It was so dangerous. Wang Shengguo's expression changed when he finished listening to his wife. He could feel the lingering fears in her heart. The situation was critical. If I hadn't done anything, the young man would have killed Dudu. She's just a small child. How can I bear to watch her die? Li Xiaomei said. You, sigh. Wang Shengguo let out a breath. He didn't know what to say to Li Xiaomei. Standing from his point of view, he didn't want Li Xiaomei to take any risk. However, from Li Xiaomei's point of view, if she didn't do anything after seeing this scene, the seeds of guilt would be planted in her heart. She wouldn't be able to overcome this emotion. In fact, she might not be able to feel at ease her entire life. A clear conscience. It sounded simple, but it was very hard to put into action. There were so many people at the scene, but only Li Xiaomei had acted. This was the human heart. Life is unpredictable. Wang Fuguei did many charity projects over the past few years, but has still unable to escape this ending. Wang Fuguei lamented, poor Dudu, she lost her parents at such a young age. What would she do in the future? Every effect comes with a cause. Some matters cannot be wiped out just because you did charity. Wang Teng walked down from the stairs and said calmly, I don't think that the young man is wrong. Wang Fuguei killed his parents. He had the right to take revenge. Wang Shengguo looked at Wang Teng. He knew what Wang Teng did from Li Xiaomei. Hence, his expression was complex. He felt relieved and emotional. Why did you chop off his arm then? You already knew that he didn't want to kill your mom and just wanted to scare her. When you cut his arm, you created a grudge out of nothing. Wang Shengguo looked at him and said. First, it doesn't matter whether he wanted to kill my mom or not. Since he acted, he needed to bear the consequences. Second, survival of the fittest. I'm stronger than him, so I have the final say. I only let him go with an arm because he didn't want to kill mom and his background is very pitiful. If not, I would have cut off his head. Wang Teng was straightforward and spoke maliciously. Wang Shengguo looked at him intently. He sighed. You have grown up and have your own way of dealing with things. I feel proud of you. Why do you keep talking about killing people? You sound like a serial killer. Li Xiaomei glared at him and said. Oh, how did I become a serial killer? However, since it was his mom, Wang Teng admitted defeat. He said hurriedly, you're right. Your son will definitely be a kind person in the future. Stop using your glib tongue. Go and wash your hands and prepare to eat. Li Xiaomei left the father and son alone and went into the kitchen to cook. After some time, the dishes were placed on the table. Li Xiaomei carried Dudu over and put her on the seat beside Wang Teng. She was very small, so when she sat on the chair, only her head could be seen above the table. This young girl had remained silent after she woke up in the afternoon. She didn't cry nor kick up a fuss. She just sat on the sofa and twirled her hands anxiously. Dudu, are you hungry? Do you want to eat with auntie, uncle, and brother Wang Teng? Li Xiaomei squatted beside her and coaxed her gently. The little girl nodded and said in a cute, childish voice, okay. Mom, she's too small. She can't reach the food. You need to make her chair higher, Wang Teng said. I know. I'm thinking of a way. Li Xiaomei walked around the living room as she tried to find something to make Dudu's chair higher. Auntie, I can eat like this. I can reach the food. Dudu crawled up and kneeled on the chair as she said each word slowly. How can you do that? Your knees will hurt from kneeling, Li Xiaomei said worriedly and hurriedly carried her down. Wang Teng thought for a moment and brought down a pile of books from his room. He stacked them on the chair and said, Here, this is high enough. Thank you, brother Wang Teng. Dudu looked at Wang Teng and said softly, Good girl. Let's eat. Wang Teng rubbed her head and messed up her mushroom-shaped hair. This feeling was quite good. The four people ate their meal. Li Xiaomei sat on Dudu's left and kept taking food for her. She asked her what she liked to eat and if she needed someone to feed her. However, Dudu insisted on eating herself even though she seemed a little clumsy. Very soon, her face got dirty. Chapter 153, Jealousy caused me to fall apart after the meal. Wang Ting's family drove to Deer Garden. Li Xiaomei was carrying Dudu in her arms, who remained quiet. Li Xiaomei had told Wang Shengguo and Wang Ting earlier that she was usually very lively. This wasn't her usual self. The family of 3 was worried about this child. She had just received an enormous stimulation. What if she couldn't let it go? Dudu, what snacks do you want to eat? Shall I buy some for you later? Li Xiaomei attempted to open up her heart. Thank you, Auntie. I don't eat snacks. Dudu shook her head and whispered. Then, what about some Barbie dolls? Let's buy a pretty one. Li Xiaomei didn't give up. She pondered for some time and opened her mouth again. Auntie, there's no need, Dudu lowered her head and said. Li Xiaomei felt helpless. She looked at Wang Ting and wanted to seek his help. Wang Ting shrugged. How would he know how to coax a child? Deer Garden. Wang Shengguo drove his car to the sales department. It was in the evening, so there were a lot of staff and customers in the sales department. Good evening. The moment they entered the lobby of the sales department, a sales manager wearing a black suit welcomed them. The sales managers in Deer Garden's sales department were all good-looking. The quality of people was quite high. You must be Mr. Wang, right? You came before, the male sales manager smiled and said. Oh, you still remember me? Wang Shengguo was surprised. Of course. I remember all my clients, the sales manager said. This was what he said on the surface. Actually, the sales manager remembered Wang Shengguo because he didn't bring enough money the last time. He had left a stronger impression on him. Since you know me, things will be easier. Can you bring me to the villa I looked at the last time? This time, my son will be paying. Wang Shengguo didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, he was very proud. The sales manager looked at Wang Ting in surprise. He knew the price of the villas in Deer Garden clearly. At first, he thought that Wang Shengguo had prepared the money one way or another. He didn't expect this young man to be the one paying. Can he afford it? This doubt flashed past the sales manager's mind. However, he didn't raise it verbally. He was just a sales manager. He didn't have the right to look down on a person who was able to present the credentials to buy a house here. Thus, he nodded his head hurriedly and smiled. All right, the 3 of you, the 4 of you can follow me. He almost missed the little girl. The sales manager brought Wang Ting and his family out of the sales department. There was a special coach meant for touring the estates. He fetched them to the front of the villa. The sales manager took out the keys and opened the door. Wang Ting followed Wang Shengguo and toured the house. Overall, it was not bad. The lighting, layout, and design were compatible with the Wang family's taste. The quality of renovation in Deer Garden was quite high, so it was able to satisfy their needs. They didn't need to renovate this house again. As for the furniture, they needed to purchase them individually. But, as long as they had the money, this wasn't a problem. What do you think, son? Asked Wang Shengguo. As long as you like it. I plan to buy a house for you all to live in, Wang Ting said. Li Xiaomei and Wang Shengguo gave a comforting smile. One could tell that they liked this villa. I'll take this block. Let's sign the agreement. Wang Shengguo turned around and spoke to the sales manager. The sales manager was delighted. In his heart, he was jumping up and down. If he was able to complete this transaction, he could earn a high commission. All right, let's go and sign the agreement now. The few of them went back to the sales department. The sales manager invited Wang Ting and his family into an office room and personally served them some tea and pastries. Would you like to make a full payment or pay in installments? The sales manager looked at Wang Ting instinctively when he said this. I'll make a full payment, Wang Ting said. Is there any discount if we make a full payment? Wang Shengguo asked from the side. Yes. If you make a full payment, the highest discount we can give you is 3%. You will also be able to enjoy 3 years of property management for free, the sales manager said. Then, he thought of something. Oh, our company has another rule. If the buyer is a martial warrior, he can enjoy a 10% discount. 10%. Wang Shengguo was flabbergasted. He glanced at Wang Shengwa uncontrollably. This company was so generous. A 10% discount meant that this 300 million house would cost 270 million now. It was a 30 million discount. Indeed, martial warriors would get benefits everywhere they went. The rumors were true. Wang Shengwa and Li Xiaomei looked at each other. They had the same thought. Yes, this is a discount for martial warriors. Normal people won't be able to enjoy it, the sales manager said with envy. I love a company like yours. Here, this is my martial warrior credential. Wang Ting was straightforward. He took out his martial warrior documents and placed them on the table. The sales manager. He looked at the little booklet on the table and suddenly felt stunned. That was just a casual remark. He didn't expect there to be a martial warrior in this family. And it was the young man who was making the purchase. No wonder he could afford the house. When this thought went through his mind, the sales manager became even more polite and said cautiously, I need to verify it. Sure. Wang Ting nodded. The sales manager took out a device and scanned the martial warrior credential. He confirmed Wang Ting's identity. Mr. Wang, your identity has been verified. You can enjoy the 10% discount from our company. The sales manager passed the martial warrior credential back to Wang Ting respectfully. Wang Shengwa and Li Xiaomei felt proud and complicated at the same time. Next, they proceeded with the house buying. They paid and signed the contract. A slash of the card, and 300 million was gone. Fortunately, they had the house. After they bought all the furniture, they could move in right away. Have a nice day. The sales manager sent Wang Ting and his family to the door and watched them leave in their car. When he returned to the lobby, a few other sales managers immediately gathered around him. Brother Lin, did the family make a purchase just now? Yes. They took out 300 million just like that, the sales manager, who had received Wang Ting and his family, said. TSK, 300 million. Brother Lin, you can buy a house with your commission this time. The other sales managers were extremely jealous. Such rich people. Brother Lin, how much discount did you give them? 10%. What? 10%. There's a martial warrior among them. The other sales managers were dumbfounded. That's right. The young man is a martial warrior. He's the one who paid for the house, the sales manager replied. Martial warriors. They are wealthy and enjoy all kinds of benefits. Jealousy is causing me to fall apart. In the car, Wang Ting said, Dad, Mom, find time tomorrow and buy some furniture. Move as quickly as possible. It's safer there. All right, we will take a look tomorrow, Wang Shengwa said. After they reached home, Li Xiaomei threw Dudu to Wang Ting and asked him to help take care of her for a moment while she tidied and arranged Dudu's room. In the living room, Wang Ting and Dudu sat opposite on the sofa and stared at each other. Chapter 154. Dudu's tears. Wang Ting stared at the little person on the sofa opposite him and admitted defeat after a while. He opened his mouth and asked, Dudu, do you want to watch cartoons? Dudu shook her head. Then, do you want to eat an apple? Wang Ting picked up the apple on the table and asked. Dudu shook her head again. Chocolate. She shook her head. Biscuit. She shook her head. Milk. Brother Wang Ting, are you hungry? Dudu stared at Wang Ting innocently. Wang Ting held the milk in his hand, and the smile at the edge of his lips froze. When Li Xiaomei came out, she saw Wang Ting on the sofa with a helpless expression. Dudu was sitting beside him innocently. What is the matter with you? Li Xiaomei asked in shock. Nothing. I just want some peace and quiet. Wang Ting waved his hand and said. Li Xiaomei. Dudu, what is wrong with your brother Wang Ting? She turned and asked Dudu. Dudu shook her head, opening her eyes wide to express her innocence and oblivion. Forget it. Let's ignore him. Come, let's go take a bath. Li Xiaomei carried Dudu up and ignored the person who was pretending to be dead on the sofa. She climbed up the stairs without a care. Dudu popped her head out behind Li Xiaomei's neck. She looked at Wang Ting curiously. Wang Ting sighed. He actually lost to a little girl. He was such a failure. When he was bemoaning his fate on the sofa and questioning his life, his phone rang. He took out his phone and looked at the screen. Bai Wei had sent him a message. Bai Wei, brother Wang Teng, are you back? When Wang Teng was on the Xingwu continent, Bai Wei had sent him many messages. Wang Teng didn't have time to reply to her. He didn't expect her to message him again. This young lady's frequency of messaging was a little high. Wang Ting, Embark. Bai Wei immediately sent a surprised expression. Bai Wei, brother Wang Ting, where did you go and play? You didn't contact us the entire summer break. Wang Teng, I went to the Xingwu continent. He didn't hide his whereabouts. It wasn't something secretive anyway. Bai Wei, you went to the Xingwu continent. Wang Teng, yes. Bai Wei, that's impressive. Brother Wang Teng, you have already gone to the Xingwu continent. Wang Teng sent a husky emoticon that was laughing with its hands on its waist. Bai Wei, is the scenery in the Xingwu continent beautiful? Did you take any pictures? Send some to me. Wang Ting shook his head. The scenery in the Xingwu continent was indeed beautiful, but he didn't have the mood to notice it. What he felt the most was danger and eeriness. For instance, the formidable star beasts and the mysterious dark apparitions. However, before he became a martial warrior, his impression of the Xingwu continent was an exotic place with beautiful scenery. The comparison made him a little emotional. Wang Ting sent an emoticon that was smiling awkwardly. Wang Ting, I forgot to take pictures. I will take some next time. Bai Wei, what a pity. But I forgive you. Remember to take pictures the next time. I'm so envious that you can go to the Xingwu continent. Wang Ting, I will. The two of them chatted for a while. Then, Wang Ting finally managed to find an excuse to stop the conversation. He heaved a sigh of relief uncontrollably. Just when he was about to put his phone back, he received another message. Lin Chuhan, school is starting soon. Are you back? Wang Teng, I just came back. Well, I have been back for only 3 days, so I'm not lying. Wang Ting nodded to himself. Lin Chuhan, where did you go during the summer break? Why didn't you reply to my message? Wang Teng, the Xingwu continent. Lin Chuhan, the Xingwu continent. Is he already so far ahead? Lin Chuhan was secretly stunned. She felt a sudden pressure and a sense of urgency. She must not lag too far behind him. Lin Chuhan was extremely curious about the Xingwu continent. She kept asking Wang Teng questions out of excitement. Wang Teng picked those that he could answer to satisfy her curiosity. Half an hour later, he ended the conversation. Wang Teng wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Ding dong. Another message was received. Wang Teng looked at the phone in his hand. His eyes twitched. Lin Chuxia, brother-in-law, my sister told me that you are back. Wang Teng. Is there an end to this? What is wrong with these ladies? Wang Teng could only gather his strength to handle his sister-in-law. 20 minutes later, Wang Teng finally finished dealing with Lin Chuxia. He sighed. Women are scary. He turned off his phone without thinking. Damn it, let's see who still wants to send me messages. My phone is out of battery. It shut down. Li Xiaomei carried Dudu down the stairs. The little fellow had finished bathing. After getting clean, she looked like a china doll. They had spent a long time upstairs. Wang Teng wondered what they were doing. Li Xiaomei asked Aunt Chen to buy the pajamas Dudu was wearing in the afternoon. She also made her buy some daily necessities. Wang Teng felt that Li Xiaomei had plans to let Dudu live in their house long term. Son, play with Dudu. I will cook some supper for both of you. Li Xiaomei placed Dudu on the sofa beside Wang Teng. Then, she went to the kitchen to cook food. Oh, Wang Teng was on the brink of tears. Did he have something against women tonight? He had just dealt with 3 ladies, and now, there was another smaller one in front of him. Oh God. He turned and looked at the small person beside him, giving her a fatherly smile. Half an hour later, Li Xiaomei finished preparing supper and called everyone to eat. They gathered around the dining table and started eating. There was a small bowl in front of Dudu. However, she didn't touch it. Dudu, why aren't you eating? You don't like to eat that? Li Xiaomei asked. Dudu shook her head. Suddenly, she opened her mouth. Auntie, I want to go home. I want to find my parents. The atmosphere tensed up in an instant. The adults turned silent. Dudu, is my house not good? Your parents went to a faraway place. Li Xiaomei's eyes turned red. As she spoke, her voice choked a little. Have they abandoned me? The little girl pouted. She sounded as though she was about to cry. Why will they? They loved you the most in this world. Why will they abandon you? Li Xiaomei asked. Then why didn't they come and look for me? Dudu asked curiously. Are they hiding because the bad guy scared them? Brother Wang Ting is so powerful. Auntie, can you ask Brother Wang Ting to protect them? Don't let the bad guy bully my parents. Good girl, they just went to a faraway place to work. After you grow up, you will be able to see them again, Li Xiaomei said. Auntie, you're lying. Are they dead? Dudu said. The tears in her eyes had already started rolling down. Li Xiaomei covered her mouth to prevent herself from crying. She hurriedly went forward and hugged Dudu tightly. Dudu finally started bawling. Sigh, what a poor child. Wang Shengwa heaved a long sigh. Chapter 155. I'm no longer the child you loved the most. Dudu went to sleep after she got tired from crying. Li Xiaomei had tidied a room for her. She decorated it like a princess room, and it looked very cozy. It was highly suitable for a little girl. She carefully placed Dudu on the bed. When she looked up, she saw Wang Ting standing at the door. Sha. Li Xiaomei placed her forefinger on her lips and signaled Wang Ting to speak after they got out of the room. When they walked out, she closed the door behind them softly. Then, she said, she finally fell asleep. Don't wake her up. This little fellow is very smart and obedient. She will get over it soon, Wang Ting said. Who can be certain about this? Li Xiaomei replied. What do you plan to do? We don't have the right to keep her with us. This isn't a solution. Wang Shengwa came over and spoke to them. Why don't we adopt her? Li Xiaomei hesitated before suggesting. Adopt her. Wang Shengwa and Wang Ting looked at her in astonishment. They didn't expect her to have this idea. Have you thought about it clearly? Wang Shengwa frowned and asked. Adopting a child wasn't an easy task, especially for a family like them. They needed to consider many things. I've thought about it the entire afternoon. I heard her mother saying that she's the only daughter. Duda's grandparents have passed away, and she doesn't have any relatives that can take care of her. Let's not talk about Wang Fugu's relatives. They are all cruel and unscrupulous people. None of them has a good heart. If we allow them to raise Dudu, it's like sending her to the tiger's den. We should adopt her, Li Xiaomei said. Son, what do you think? Wang Shengwa looked at Wang Ting. Me? I don't have any objections. It's all right to have a younger sister, Wang Ting replied nonchalantly. Also, Dudu is really pitiful. If what Mom said is true and her relatives are all unreliable, it won't be a good idea to pass her to them. Since you think that it's fine, I have no objections either. I like Dudu. However, no matter how much we discuss, we still need to ask Dudu for her opinion, Wang Shengwa said. You're right. Why don't we let her stay in our house for some time before mentioning this matter to her? Li Xiaomei asked. Let's do that. Wang Shengwa nodded. All right, let's go and sleep. I'll accompany Dudu today. I won't be going back to sleep, Li Xiaomei said to Wang Shengwa. Haha, Dad, you are out of favor. Wang Ting didn't forget to land a blow on his father. Go away, you little brat. Wang Shengwa rolled his eyes and pretended that he wanted to knock Wang Ting's head. Wang Ting dodged and ran away immediately. A silent night. The following day, Wang Ting got up early and started his morning exercise in the courtyard. He faced the sun and cultivated his force. During his 1-month trip to the Xingwu continent, he had gradually cultivated the habit of practicing whenever he had the time. He didn't want to waste any time. He was back home, so he didn't have the sense of urgency from the life or death situations anymore. But, He must not stop his practice. After he finished practicing his sky-cremating sword skill, Wang Teng slowly stabilized himself and retracted his fire force back into his force nucleus. He let out a breath of hot air. The sky-cremating sword skill is an Earth-rank elite-class battle technique. Its sword presence is harder to comprehend than the fire Kirin sword skill. It looks like I need to spend more time practicing it. Wang Teng wondered to himself. He kept his battle sword. Just as he was preparing to practice his blade skill, he turned and saw a quiet and tiny figure sitting in front of the door of the villa with the corner of his eyes. The person had her hands on her chin and was staring at him intently with her dark and bright eyes. Dudu, why are you up so early? Wang Teng was slightly stunned. He walked forward and squatted in front of her. Sleeping and waking up early are the traits of a good child, Dudu said in her cute voice. You are right. Dudu is a good child. Wang Ting's pupils twirled around his eyes as he quickly praised her. Yes, Dudu is a good child. Dudu nodded in agreement. This little fellow is quite narcissistic. Wang Ting laughed secretly. Brother Wang Ting, were you practicing martial arts just now? Dudu waved her hands exaggeratedly as she asked. Yes, I was practicing martial arts. Is it fun to watch? Asked Wang Teng. Yes. You're so amazing, Dudu said earnestly. Shall I show you another kind of martial arts? Wang Teng smiled. Okay. Dudu nodded. She stared at Wang Teng without blinking as he walked to the open ground in front. He held his battle sword in his hand and started practicing. The glamorous sword rays engulfed Wang Teng's body. He purposely slowed down his movement and made it pleasant to watch. His actions weren't as sharp, simple, and decisive as when he was in a battle. The mighty moving mountain blade skill was forcefully changed into a performance technique that Wang Teng used to coax a child. What would the other martial warriors think if they saw this scene? How is it? Wang Teng stopped and asked. It looks good. Brother Wang Teng, you're so amazing. I wish that I was as powerful as you. Dudu suddenly got depressed. Wang Teng was given a shock. He wouldn't be able to deal with this young girl if she started crying. Dudu, why don't I teach you martial arts? Wang Teng had a sudden thought and said quickly, will I be as powerful as you if I practice martial arts? Dudu's eyes lit up like light bulbs. Of course. When you practice martial arts, you might become stronger than me, Wang Teng agreed as though he was speaking the truth. I will follow brother Wang Teng and learn martial arts then. Dudu stood up immediately and ran towards Wang Teng with her short legs. Brother Wang Teng, teach me quickly. Slow down, slow down. Don't fall. When Li Xiaomei came out to call them in for breakfast, she saw Wang Ting teaching Dudu how to do the horse stance. Although Dudu was young, her posture was quite good. Even an adult would feel deeply ashamed if they saw her perseverance. Hey, stop practicing. Dudu is still young. How can she practice martial arts? Look at the sweat on her forehead. Don't exhaust her. Li Xiaomei walked over and pulled Dudu into her arms worriedly. She wiped the huge beads of sweat from her forehead. Mom, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Adequate practice is good for her, Wang Ting said. I don't understand all these. Just be careful in the future, Li Xiaomei reminded him in a worried tone. Fine, I will take extra notice. I won't tire out your little doll. Wang Ting suddenly felt that his family status had been lowered by a few levels. Mom, I'm no longer the child you loved the most. He was experiencing grief all alone. Dudu, let's stop for today, alright? Let's go and have breakfast, Li Xiaomei said. Okay. Dudu looked at Wang Ting. She only replied to Li Xiaomei after he nodded. Li Xiaomei was jealous when she saw this scene. I'm looking at you, but you looked at him instead. Ha ha ha. Wang Ting was laughing happily in his heart. Chapter 156. Natural boasting was the most lethal. After they finished breakfast, Wang Teng accompanied his parents to buy furniture. They walked around the shop and bought all the furniture they needed. The entire morning went away in a flash. The furniture they bought was all of high quality. Service consumption was the trend now, especially for high-class brands. They had a one-stop service, and it was convenient and fast. The pieces of furniture were delivered to their new home in Deer Garden in the afternoon. Everything is here. We can move in today if we want, Wang Ting smiled and said. Why don't we do your graduation banquet and the house-moving banquet together? We can move in after that. Li Xiaomei still kept some of her traditional thinking. She wanted to choose a good day to shift houses. She also wanted to move in only after throwing a banquet. That will save a lot of trouble, Wang Ting smiled and said. Naturally, he wouldn't go against Li Xiaomei for a small matter like this. Everything was fine as long as she was happy. It's decided then. I will go back and discuss with your father and grandfathers. We will settle it over the next few days. Your school is starting soon, so we can't drag this any longer, Li Xiaomei said. Dudu sized up the new house curiously as she laid in Li Xiaomei's arms. It was hard to know what she was thinking. After settling the matters here, Wang Teng and Li Xiaomei went back to the Fuhua Villa district. At night, Li Xiaomei discussed the matter with Wang Shenghua and called Wang Teng's grandfathers. In the end, they decided to hold the graduation banquet and the house-moving banquet together the day after tomorrow. The next day, Wang Teng woke up early and taught Dudu martial arts for some time. Actually, he only taught her how to do the horse dance. This was to train her muscles. She was still young, so it was inappropriate for her to train properly. However, this little fellow was quite earnest. Her patience was good too. She didn't complain throughout the entire practice. Also, she stopped asking about her parents from the second day onwards. She didn't kick up a fuss and cried to go home. It seemed as though in her heart, she already knew that she wouldn't be able to go back. The Wang family felt relieved when they saw how obedient and sensible she was. However, their hearts ached for her too. After morning practice, Wang Teng went out. He drove his car to Lin Chuhan's house. Lin Chuhan's mother was extremely enthusiastic when she saw him. Wang Ting, I haven't seen you in a while. Come in and have a seat. I will pour a cup of water for you. Auntie, there's no need. I'm not thirsty. Wang Ting hurriedly stopped her. He explained, I went on a long trip and just came back a few days ago. I'm starting school soon, so I came to see Chuxia. I'm worried that I might not have the time to visit her when I enter university. Chuxia is indeed very lonely at home. Thank you for thinking of her, Mother Lin said gratefully. I will go up and look for her then. Auntie, you can continue with your work. All right, go ahead. Wang Teng walked up the stairs. Mother Lin looked at his back view and felt satisfied with him. Lin Chuhan wasn't at home. She owed Wang Teng money, so she went out early in the morning to work. She had been working hard to earn money the entire summer break. She didn't dare to relax. Wang Ting had a few 100 million of assets, so the money she owed was nothing to him. But Lin Chuhan was a stubborn girl. She had her pride too. She didn't want to owe Wang Ting anything. Wang Ting was able to guess and understand her thinking. That was why he allowed her to do whatever she wanted and didn't say anything. Wang Ting accompanied Lin Chuxia and chatted with her for some time. He picked up the attribute bubbles scattered around her room along the way. Yes, along the way. He didn't come for the attribute bubbles. Poison Force * 26 Demon Lotus Poison Body * 18 Gun Kung Fu * 2 When he picked up the last attribute bubble, Wang Teng was dumbfounded. He opened his eyes wide. Have you been practicing the gun kung fu recorded on the USB? He suppressed his astonishment and asked casually. After Wang Ting picked up all the attribute bubbles around her, Lin Chuxia felt much more comfortable. She squinted and replied to him calmly, yes. Really? How did you practice? Lin Chuxia was able to practice gun kung fu using the video on the USB? The problem was, she didn't have a gun. How can you practice gun kung fu without a gun? Are you trying to fool me? It's all right if she practiced without a gun, but she actually managed to succeed. This isn't scientific. How on earth did she do it? Wang Ting was entirely shocked. I just follow the video and practice it naturally, Lin Chuxia replied indifferently. She sounded as if she was talking about something as simple as eating and drinking. Wang Ting. But, how can you practice without a gun? Who says that I don't have a gun? Wang Ting was stunned by Lin Chuxia's words once again. She has a gun. Where did she get it? The next moment, Wang Ting saw Lin Chuxia opening her drawer and taking out a toy gun. Here, I asked my sister to help me buy a toy gun and some bullets. There are sparrows flying below our house every day. I use the toy gun to shoot the sparrows using the skills taught in the video. The toy gun doesn't have much power and won't harm the birds. Truthfully speaking, it's quite interesting. I can use this to pass my time. Lin Chuxia smiled and said. Toy gun. To hell with toy guns. Many people used real guns and bullets and tried all kinds of scientific methods to practice gun kung fu. However, they might not succeed. Yet, Lin Chuxia was using a piece of low-level equipment like the toy gun to practice gun kung fu by shooting sparrows every day. And she managed to attain results. If those people knew this, they might want to bang a piece of tofu and die. Cough, you can continue to practice. Who knows, you might become a powerful master. Wang Ting coughed awkwardly. That's true. I feel that this gun kung fu is very interesting. I'm able to hit a sparrow flying 50 meters away from me. Isn't that impressive? Lin Chuxia said proudly. 50 meters and flying? Wang Ting stared at the ceiling and suddenly started questioning his life. Mind you, he was only able to achieve this when he pushed his gun kung fu to the small achievement stage. However, Lin Chuxia had managed to do it on her own. Even more, she used such a ridiculous method. Could it be that Lin Chuxia was a talent in gun kung fu? Not bad. However, you have to work harder. You are just at the foundation level. Wang Ting told a bald-faced lie. He didn't want to admit that he got stimulated by her. This is only the foundation stage. I have to work harder then. Lin Chuxia waved her small fists around as she said with motivation. Wang Ting. Damn it, natural boasting was the most lethal. He didn't expect he would have to suffer from other people's boasting one day, especially from someone who didn't know that she was boasting. He rejected Mother Lin's kind intention to stay for lunch. After coming out of Lin Chuhan's house, he glanced at Lin Chuxia's room. Lin Chuxia was waving at him from the window. Wang Ting could sense that she was smiling. She seemed very happy. If she weren't affected by the poison body, with her talent, she would have been in the spotlight in school. Thinking about it, Lin Chuhan isn't weak either. This pair of siblings are astonishing. Wang Ting thought to himself silently. He felt pity for Lin Chuxia. He waved at Lin Chuxia and turned around to leave. Chapter 157, A Happy Banquet in the Afternoon, 2 days later. Wang Ting would be starting university in 2 days. Crown Hotel was a 5-star hotel. It was very famous in Donghai. Wang Teng's graduation banquet and his family's house-moving banquet would be held in the Crown Hotel today. Many people came. The Wang family and Li family's relatives all came. Even the business partners of the Wang family attended the banquet. Wang Ting knew some of them. As for the others, he had never seen them before. After Wang Ting was reborn, this was the first time he was meeting his grandparents. His 3 grandparents were getting on in years, but they maintained their health well and had good spirits. They were chatting casually when Wang Ting went forward and greeted them. Grandpa, Grandpa, Grandma, Dad, Mom. Wang Shangguo and Li Xiumei greeted them too. Oh, my lovely grandson is here. Come, let Grandpa take a look at you. Grandpa Wang was thrilled. He ignored Wang Shangguo and waved his hands at Wang Ting. Wang Shangguo couldn't help but roll his eyes. Wang Ting walked forward. Grandpa Wang patted the seat beside him and asked Wang Ting to sit down. Then, he sized up Wang Ting and said happily, "You became more muscular. This must be the result of practicing martial arts." Grandpa Li smiled and said, "I didn't expect my grandson to become the top scholar of the martial arts exam." "Ha ha ha, that's because my Wang family's genes are good," Grandpa Wang laughed proudly. "My Li family's genes are not bad either. Although this is the martial arts era, a martial warrior has to be adept in both his studies and martial arts. If he can't study well, He will not be able to become the top scholar. Grandpa Li was unwilling to back down. It's called the martial arts exam, so martial arts is the most important. Studies can only stand aside. Grandpa Wang pouted. Wang Teng and his parents were caught between laughter and tears when they saw the two elders quarreling over which family's genes were more outstanding. They were old children. The older they got, the more childish they were. This saying was right. Dad, there are others around. Stop quarreling. Others will laugh at you, Wang Shengwa said helplessly. Dad, you too. What's the point of arguing? Also, Wang Teng carries both families' genes. Both are important. Li Xiaomei felt speechless. Haha, these two old men are getting more and more childish. Wang Teng's grandmother laughed happily. Then, she pulled Wang Ting to her side and asked him worriedly, is practicing martial arts tiring? You must have suffered a lot. Grandma, I'm fine. I'm very talented, so I didn't suffer much, Wang Ting lied through his teeth. Hello, Shangwa, sister-in-law, you are here. At this moment, Wang Ting's oldest uncle, Wang Shenghong, walked over. His wife, Zhao Huili, was beside him, as well as his cousins, Wang Yanan and Wang Yalong. Elder brother, sister-in-law. We just arrived. I didn't know you would be so early. Wang Shangwa and Li Xiaomei greeted them. Wang Shenghong nodded. He was around 7 years older than Wang Shangwa and looked mature and imposing. His gaze went past Wang Shengwa and Li Xiaomei and landed on Wang Teng, who was behind them. Uncle, it has been a long time since I saw you. Little Ting, you have changed completely, Wang Shenghong exclaimed. Of course. I was shocked when I saw Wang Ting the other time. Wang Yanan smiled brightly and said. Yalong, look at your younger cousin and then look at yourself. All you do is nothing. You should change. Wang Yanan suddenly turned his attention to the young man, who was playing with his phone beside Wang Yanan. He was a little disappointed and angry while speaking. TSK. Wang Yalong rolled his eyes. He was too lazy to even reply. You. Wang Shenghong was so angry that he felt like hitting his son right then and there. All right, we're at a banquet. Don't keep lecturing Yalong. Zhao Huili doted on her son, so she hurriedly mediated the situation. You spoil him. Wang Shenghong replied furiously. Zhao Huili ignored him and smiled at Wang Teng instead. You children haven't met for a long time. You must have many things to talk about with one another. You don't have to accompany us elders. Go and play. Come, I'll bring you to meet some people, Wang Yanan said to Wang Ting. After Wang Ting left with his peers, Wang Shenghong said, your family is the main lead today. Many guests came. Go and welcome them. All right. Wang Shengwa nodded. He asked, where's Shengjun? Why don't I see him? He's greeting his colleagues over there. Wang Shenghong pointed in a direction. Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing. A stern-looking man was smiling and chatting with a few people with his back straight up. Wang Shengwa and his brothers looked very similar. However, their temperaments were all different, including their figures. It wasn't hard to differentiate them. Wang Shengwa and Wang Shenghong went to welcome their business friends. On the other side, Wang Ting got to know a few young people under Wang Yanan's introduction. Their families always had business dealings with the Wang family. They didn't look like those rich second generations who only knew how to enjoy themselves. Instead, they were all young and talented. This person held an important position in a certain family company, while that person had started his own business and had this amount of assets now. Wang Yanan's intention was obvious. In the past, Wang Ting didn't have the right to enter this circle. However, he had the ability now. In fact, his ability was more than enough. Look at those young people flattering him. Outstanding people had their pride, and these young people were no exception. However, in front of Wang Teng, they kept their arrogance in their pockets. Martial warriors represented another level. No matter how impressive they were, they couldn't be compared to a martial warrior with great potential. Wang Teng didn't like this kind of useless networking, but he didn't lose his manners. He remained polite and sensible. After a few rounds of introduction, Wang Teng finally escaped this ordeal. He went to find the other younger generations of the Wang family. One of them was his third uncle, Wang Shengjun's son, Wang Haoren, and his aunt's daughter, Fang Qianwen. They were both younger than Wang Teng. When they saw Wang Teng, they gathered around him and asked him about the martial arts exam. They were all very curious. As for the Li family, Li Xiumei only had one older sister, Li Xiulan. She was here with her family today. Li Xulan's daughter, Tian Xinyu, was 1 year younger than Wang Teng. She was year 2 in senior high this year. She followed behind everyone. She had a shy personality and wasn't as outspoken as Wang Haoren and Fang Qianwen. She was also interested in the martial arts exam, but she didn't go forward and ask questions. Brother Wang Ting, how did you study for the exam? You became the top scholar, Wang Haoren said in admiration. Study hard and make progress every day. Wang Haoren. Brother Wang Ting, you must take a photo with me later. I told my classmates that you're my cousin, but they don't believe me, Fang Qianwen pouted and said. No problem. You can take as many photos as you want. Wang Ting was more carefree around the younger generations. He didn't need to restrain himself or put up an act. He chatted with them casually. TSK, what's so impressive about him? Wang Yilong sat in a corner and glanced at Wang Ting from the corner of his eyes as he muttered in disdain. He was similar to Wang Teng of the past. He liked to fool around and drink and was hopeless in his studies. Unfortunately, Wang Ting suddenly woke up and embarked on the right path. He was even used as an example to educate him now. That was why he was unhappy with Wang Teng. He felt that his act of turning over a new leaf was just a show. It was shameless. Chapter 158. A clock as a present. Wang Yilong sat in a corner alone and played with his phone. He seemed extremely out of place. Wang Teng knew what he was thinking and he could understand him too. After all, they were once the same kind of person. However, Wang Yilong disliked everything about Wang Teng now. Everything Wang Teng did would be wrong, including voluntarily getting close with him. Thus, the best way was to do nothing. As time passed, the guests slowly arrived. Wang Shanghua and his brothers attended to all the middle-aged guests. These people were mostly CEOs of companies or the leaders of the various elite families. The Wang family was just a minor family in a larger circle. They couldn't reach the highest status in society, but they had some influence among the smaller families. Also, Wang Teng had become a martial warrior and was going to Huanghai Military Academy. This allowed the Wang family's reputation to rise to another level. Hence, many people came today. Certain people who looked down on the Wang family in the past came for their banquet today. They even seemed exceptionally eager to get in their good books. Grandpa Wang and Grandpa Li were chatting with the older guests. Grandpa Wang was boasting about his grandson most of the time. He said that Wang Ting had always been talented since he was young. He learned to walk in a few months, and by the time he was 1 year old, he could run like the wind. His proud laughter could be heard from afar. It was loud and confident. What do you mean by run like the wind? Do you think that your grandson is Neza? The other elders rolled their eyes in their hearts. They were too lazy to expose him. Wang Yanan was chatting cheerfully with those young and talented youths. Honestly, it was a little funny that she was the only one who was able to bear responsibilities in Wang Teng's generation. The others were either too young or too useless. Fortunately, there was Wang Teng now. However, he didn't like this kind of networking and would only greet the other people symbolically to perform his duty as the host. Then, he went back to play with the other young children. Wang Yanan could only shake her head helplessly. However, she could distinctively feel the change in the attitude of the young people. In the past, they were never so enthusiastic. They were all incredibly proud. Forget it. Since Wang Teng doesn't like networking, let him be. With him out, the Wang family had many things to gain. Miss Wang, your cousin entered Huanghai Military Academy, right? A voice pulled Wang Yanan back from her thoughts. Yes, I heard that the top 5 universities in China sent someone over to persuade him to join them. My cousin probably wants to stay closer to home, so he chose Huanghai Military Academy. Wang Yanan seemed a little proud as she said. He's really outstanding. Even the top universities put down their status to look for him personally. The young man who spoke just now sighed. The other people quickly came forward and flattered Wang Yanan. They didn't want to lose to this young man. Wang Yanan kept a reserved smile on her face. She was happy, but she didn't get confused by their flattering. They were just passing remarks to one another so that both parties felt happy. You're praising my cousin too highly. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. There will be good food and drinks later. I still have to greet the guests that just arrived, so we'll leave for a while, Wang Yanan said apologetically. Go ahead. You don't have to care about us. Wang Yanan nodded at them and then turned around to welcome the guests that just arrived. Xu Jie, Bai Wei, and their friends also came to Wang Teng's graduation banquet along with their parents. Wang Shengguo was familiar with their parents, so they started chatting really quickly. Xu Jie and his peers came to find Wang Teng at his corner. Brother Wang Ting, Bai Wei said sweetly. You're here. Have a seat and get yourself a drink. Make yourself at home, Wang Teng welcomed them. The group sat down and chatted casually as they drank. Have you heard? Li Rongcheng's family seemed to have provoked a martial warrior and suffered heavy losses, Xu Jie suddenly said. He seemed elated at their suffering. Oh! Wang Teng couldn't help but exchange glances with Xu Hui. They thought of that auction. It must be the doings of Xie Kuan. Xu Hui couldn't help but say coldly, he deserves it. Xu Jie noticed that she seemed to know something, so he asked hurriedly, Sister, what do you know? Xu Hui explained what happened during that time briefly. After Xu Jie and the rest heard the story, they were filled with righteous indignation and cursed uncontrollably. Forget it. There's nothing much to be said. He's just a clown, Wang Teng said calmly. He didn't care much about Li Rongcheng. In the past, they might have had some grudges, but after experiencing so many things, his perspective had widened. He wouldn't quibble with someone who wasn't a martial warrior. Of course, if Li Rongcheng provoked him again, he wouldn't hold back. It was almost 12. The guests had all arrived and taken their seats. Grandpa Wang got up and said, Thank you, everyone, for attending my grandson, Wang Teng's, graduation banquet. Let me offer a toast to everyone. He raised his head abruptly as he spoke and finished the wine in his hand. Mr. Wang, you're really bold. Ha ha ha, old Wang is still the same young man from the past. Cheers. Congratulations. All the guests in the hall showed respect to Grandpa Wang and raised their cups. They congratulated him one after another. Hey, the banquet is just starting. It looks like I came just in time. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. The voice wasn't loud, but its penetrating power was quite high. It suppressed all the sounds around it and pierced into everyone's ears. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to do this. Also, from his tone, he didn't come with good intentions. Everyone glanced at Grandpa Wang before shifting their gazes to the entrance. A figure sauntered in. What astounded everyone was the thing he was carrying on his shoulder. It was a giant clock. Who are you? Before Grandpa Wang could open his mouth, Wang Teng's eldest uncle, Wang Shenghong, stood up and shouted in anger. A delivery man. The young man smiled calmly. A delivery man? Wang Shenghong's gaze landed on the huge clock. His expression changed. Grandpa Wang and Wang Shengguo's expressions turned ugly too. They knew that this young man was here to deliver a present. Sending you a clock. Sending you to death. Who sent you? Grandpa Wang stood up and asked. The young man sniggered. Suddenly, a light shot out from his wristwatch, projecting the figure of an elder on the wall. The elder was sitting in a wheelchair. His face looked aged, and he seemed to be on the brink of death. He smiled in Grandpa Wang's direction and said, Long time no see, Wang Zhenwei. Grandpa Wang was stunned. He frowned and thought for a moment. The elder waited quietly and didn't disturb him. After some time, Grandpa Wang's expression changed entirely. It's you. You finally remember, the elder said. Ren Jianping, aren't you dead? That time, Grandpa Wang was in disbelief. You thought that you killed me with the gunshot, right? Unfortunately, I didn't die. Do you regret not firing a few more shots at me? Ren Jianping sneered. Everyone's curiosity got ignited when they heard this. The flames of gossip were burning in their eyes as they looked at the two elders, who seemed to bear a deep grudge against each other. Indeed. It's a pity that I didn't kill a bastard like you and allowed you to live a few more years. What's wrong? Have you decided to come and take revenge? Grandpa Wang sat down and looked at the screen on the wall calmly. 1. In Chinese, sending a clock has the same pronunciation as sending one to death. They are both song zhong. Chapter 159, The Wang Ting from the Wang family. That's right, I came to take my revenge, Ren Jianping blurted out. It has been so many years. Did you just remember to come and take revenge? Grandpa Wang scoffed. I don't mind telling you. I didn't have the ability to take revenge in the past. I thought that I wouldn't have any chance in this life, but just as I was about to die, the heavens gave me another chance. My Ren family is now stronger than your Wang family. That's why I came to take revenge, Ren Jianping said coldly. You get arrogant the moment you succeed. You must be the one who harmed my son in the past, right? Grandpa Wang said with disdain. It's me. Unfortunately, I didn't expect your Wang family to be able to groom a martial warrior and spoil my plan. Ren Jianping coughed a few times. He used his handkerchief to wipe the corner of his lips before continuing. I have to admit that your grandson, Wang Teng, is quite capable. He's able to become a martial warrior at such a young age. He can be considered a genius in the entire country. But, when compared to my grandson, he's nothing. Stop talking nonsense. Come and take revenge if you want and stop doing all these petty things. You are still the same as your younger self. You didn't grow at all, Grandpa Wang said. Wang Zhenxiong, don't think that you're the smartest and others are all idiots. I hate this side of you. I've always hated you. Ren Jianping became furious and had a coughing fit. A tinge of red appeared on the handkerchief covering his mouth. He didn't care about it, though, and laughed crazily. I'm going to die soon. But, before I die, I will pull your Wang family to hell with me. Grandpa Wang frowned. He wasn't afraid of an enemy who was alive, but the hatred of a dying person was enough to turn him into a maniac. No one knew what a person like this would do. You are afraid. Ha ha ha, you are afraid. Ren Jianping saw his expression and burst out laughing. You are finally afraid. You're old. You're no longer the Wang Zhenxiong who was afraid of nothing. You crazy old man, if you have the guts, come and find me. Why are you scheming against the younger generations? Grandpa Wang growled. Mph, I will not forgive you. As for your grandchildren, I will make them regret coming to this world, Ren Jianping said viciously. You. Ha ha ha, Ren Jianping laughed again when he saw Grandpa Wang's speechless expression. After laughing for some time, he suddenly stopped and shouted coldly, Zhu Wu, give him the present. Wang Zhenxiong, this is a present I prepared specially for you. However, this is just an appetizer. Wait for me patiently. The Wang family was boiling with anger. Sending him to death. If he managed to send the present, the Wang family would become a joke. Ren Jianping, this is too much. Grandpa Wang raged. Then, he shouted, stop him. Instantly, a bunch of Wang family security guards dashed out and charged towards the young man. They wanted to stop him from putting down the clock. The young man snorted. He wasn't afraid of the tall and bulky men charging at him. He remained composed. When they got nearer, he suddenly swept his leg. The force from this powerful move was enough to throw the bodyguards out. Thinking too highly of yourself. Wang Teng's family's expressions turned dark and gloomy. Zhu Wu glanced around him with an arrogant look. He raised the clock with one arm and threw it to the middle of the hall. He wanted to place this clock in the most prominent location. The clock flew out and was about to land on the platform. Suddenly, a figure shot out and appeared in front of the clock. Clang! The person raised his leg and kicked the clock towards Zhu Wu. Wang Ting, little Ting, son. Everyone shouted in surprise when they saw the figure. "I was waiting for you." Zhu Wu's expression didn't change. He raised his fist and smashed it on the giant clock. The surface of the clock bent inwards before flying towards Wang Teng again. Wang Teng scoffed. He wanted to smash the enormous clock on Zhu Wu's head. To put his plan into action, Wang Teng pushed his feet in midair and leaped up. He landed on the tip of the clock and exerted force. It felt like a mountain boring down. Boom! The huge clock fell on Zhu Wu with the sound of air breaking. Zhu Wu's expression finally underwent a change. Yellow earth force gushed out as his arms bulged out, forming two giant arms. He forcefully held onto the falling clock. He had done his homework before coming. He thought that Wang Ting was a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior. Zhu Wu was a 1-star martial warrior too. His combat prowess was not bad. He had more than enough ability to deal with a 1-star martial warrior who had just graduated from high school and didn't have any battle experience. But he didn't know that after a summer break, Wang Ting was already a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. If not, he wouldn't dare to receive his attack head-on, no matter how bold he was. Bang! Zhu Wu grabbed the edge of the huge clock with both hands tightly. He forcefully raised it in mid-air. "You're too naive. I'm an earth element martial warrior. I have great strength. You won't be able to suppress me like this," Zhu Wu shouted. He wanted to throw the clock out along with Wang Teng. But, in the next second, the weight on the clock increased tremendously. It was 2 to 3 times heavier than before. Zhu Wu's expression changed abruptly. He lowered his entire body, and the floor under him started cracking. It was unable to withstand the weight. Get up!" he shouted frantically. Force spurted out of his body as he tried to resist the mountain-like pressure. Unfortunately, it was useless. Crack! The sound of bones breaking on Zhu Wu's arm suddenly resounded in the hall. How is this possible? His face turned pale, and his pupils constricted violently. He couldn't believe what had happened. "Why are you so strong?" He raised his head and shouted. However, he could only see the black clock. He couldn't see Wang Ting's figure at all. All the guests in the hall, as well as the people from the Wang family, looked at the young man standing with his hands behind his back on the clock in a daze. They were dumbstruck. As compared to the struggling young man, Wang Ting seemed exceptionally at ease. He stood at the tip of the huge clock in a composed manner. He didn't seem to be using any energy at all. However, the clock below his feet continued dropping. No matter how much Zhu Wu resisted, he couldn't raise it. Zhu Wu roared with unwillingness. Boom! Zhu Wu's entire body was engulfed in the explosion. At this moment, the clock hadn't landed on the ground entirely. Wang Ting swept his leg and kicked the clock and Zhu Wu out of the door. Boom! Amidst a loud bang, the clock got embedded in the wall. Zhu Wu rolled out from the clock. His eyes, nose, mouth, and ears were bleeding. He fell unconscious to the ground. He didn't move anymore. The entire hall was silent. This present wasn't sent out in the end. Ren Jianping's projection had already disappeared. If he had seen this scene, he might have died from anger. "Sorry to let you see this scene. Please pretend that you've just watched a show and continue with what you were doing." "This isn't a huge matter," Wang Ting glanced around the hall and said indifferently. Everyone looked at each other. They couldn't help but admire his aura, exclaiming in their hearts, "This Wang Ting is amazing." Chapter 160. Old Grandpa Wang's eye-opening past the gaudy battle stunned every guest at the scene. Most of them had never seen a battle between martial warriors before, so they couldn't understand what had just happened. Nonetheless, they still found it impressive. Some people thought that the Wang family had offended a formidable enemy and would be having a hard time. In the end, Wang Ting fought back, and the other party died on the spot. This seemed like an entertaining show where the introduction was shocking but the ending was gloomy. The man acted proudly, yet he got killed in the end. Wang Ting could kill a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior in one move, but he had deliberately put on a flashy show. He wanted the guests to know that with him around, The Wang family would never fall. Anyone that tried to harm them would go to hell. He had achieved his aim. The guests were all astounded by his ability and admired his temperament. After everything ended, they started to have fun, and the atmosphere regained its liveliness. Wang Teng returned to the main table and sat down. His cousins were all so excited that their faces had turned red. They gathered around him noisily and chattered without stopping. "Wow, brother Wang Teng, you're so strong." "That's right. You are so handsome." His younger cousin, Fang Qianwen, clenched her fists and nodded furiously. "You're even more handsome than our school beau." Although Tian Xinyu was a little shy, she couldn't control her emotions and opened her mouth uncontrollably. "Of course, those school beaux can't be compared to our older cousin," Fang Qianwen said with contempt. "Wang Ting, you are so strong already." Even a mature adult like Wang Yanan was flabbergasted. She couldn't help but mutter to herself. Wang Yilong opened and closed his mouth. His throat felt a little dry, and his Adam's apple kept bobbling. However, he couldn't make any sound. He remembered his previous thoughts and suddenly found it a joke. Study properly and behave well. Turn over a new leaf. Everything was fake. Ability was the only true power. Wang Yilong felt that he was enlightened. "Little Tu, you gave birth to a good son." Wang Shenghong couldn't help but sigh. He called his brother by his nickname unconsciously. Wang Shanghua was glad at first, but when he heard this nickname, his face turned black. Cough, that was a slip of the tongue. Wang Shenghong realized his error and coughed awkwardly. He knew that he had said the wrong thing. Ha ha ha. Wang Ting's third uncle, Wang Shenjun, and his wife, Wang Jiling, burst out laughing. "That's enough," Wang Shenghua said furiously. "Honestly, I really admire you. You have such a good son," Wang Shenjun said. "Little Ting is so impressive now. Why don't you ask him to guide Howren in the future?" Wang Ting's third aunt said. "All right. You can ask Howren to look for him whenever he's free," Wang Shenghua smiled and replied. "Really? Thank you so much. With a martial warrior guiding him, our Howren might have a chance to get into the martial arts course." His third aunt was elated. "Little Ting is a martial warrior now. He will definitely be very busy. Don't keep asking Howren to disturb him," Wang Shenjun said. I know, Little Ting is really outstanding. You two can just sit back and enjoy your lives in the future," Wang Hualing said to Li Xiumei enviously. "Sigh, martial warrior is a dangerous status." Li Xiumei was happy that Wang Ting was so outstanding, allowing her to gain admiration from her relatives. However, whenever she thought of all the dangers a martial warrior needed to experience, she was troubled and worried. That's true. They have to fight every day. It's indeed more dangerous. But, looking at how powerful Little Ting is, he should be fine as long as he's careful, Wang Jiling consoled her. "Xiumei, how's your house in Deer Garden? We haven't looked at it yet," Zhao Huili interrupted them. Li Xiumei smiled and replied, "After the banquet ends, you can come and take a look at the new house." Of course. Deer Garden is one of the best districts in Donghai. Many wealthy people have the money but can't live there. I need to see what's the difference with my own eyes. As Zhao Huili was speaking, she couldn't help but feel jealous. Her brother-in-law was really lucky to be able to give birth to such an outstanding son. He even got to live in Deer Garden. Grandpa Wang and Grandpa Li looked at everyone with smiles on their faces. Nothing was better than seeing their families prosper. In the past, the Wang family would have probably maintained a certain status among the small families. After years of development, it might be able to climb higher 10 or 20 years later. Now, with Wang Ting's appearance, they were able to see another future. They might not need to wait 10 or 20 years for the Wang family to run ahead of the other families. Instead, they might achieve a height their generation has never attained. But everything was only possible if the Wang family overcame the obstacle in front of them, though. Ren Jianping. Grandpa Wang felt uneasy when he remembered the calm but crazy gaze of the man. No one knew what nasty things a dying man was capable of doing. Also, what made him the most anxious was, old Ren Jianping seemed to have become really successful in recent years. He didn't know what his current situation was. But he could form some conclusions since the other party was able to command martial warriors. The Wang family in the past could only die a terrible death under his revenge. How fortunate. Grandpa Wang looked at Wang Ting. Fortunately, their Wang family wasn't fated to die. His grandson, Wang Teng, was smart and talented. He became a martial warrior at a young age and got into the Huanghai Military Academy. He had a bright future ahead. Could it be that his ancestors were blessing him? He needed to take some time to visit his ancestors and pray for their blessings. Wang Teng noticed his grandfather's gloomy mood. He knew what Grandpa Wang was thinking, so he comforted him in a low voice. "Grandpa, you don't have to worry too much. From what I see, the other party doesn't dare to create a scene in Donghai. If not, he wouldn't have done all those things behind our backs. He would have directly sought us out. I've entered the Huanghai Military Academy now. I have some background. After I get a firm foothold, we won't need to be afraid of him. We'll solve whatever matters that come. Here." Grandpa Wang looked at Wang Teng's young but mature face. He smiled in relief. Good, good. My grandson is getting more and more impressive. You can help Grandpa with my troubles now. The Wang family is fortunate to have you. Grandpa, what grudge does that Ren Jianping have against you? Wang Teng asked again. That happened many years ago. Grandpa Wang took a trip down memory lane. He told Wang Ting his past slowly. Grandpa Wang and Ren Jianping came from the same village. At that time, they were good friends. They came out to make a living together, but in the end, they fell out and became enemies because of some matters. The main reason why they fell out was because of Wang Teng's grandma. Heroes loved beauty. Grandpa Wang and Ren Jianping fell in love with Wang Teng's grandma at the same time. Of course, Wang Teng's grandma chose Grandpa Wang in the end. This was the spark that caused their friendships to end in flames. Ren Jianping hated Grandpa Wang. Later on, Ren Jianping even wanted to kill Grandpa Wang. Grandpa Wang got wind of the news beforehand, so he acted first. Ren Jianping lost completely. Grandpa Wang thought that he had killed Ren Jianping, but after so many years, the other party appeared again suddenly and came to look for revenge. Wang Ting had already come up with a melancholy 1980s drama in his mind after he listened to his grandpa. His expression was fascinating. Chapter 161. The day he leaves Donghai will be the day he die. Wang Ting felt amazed when he heard Grandpa Wang's exciting past. Little brat, why are you looking at me like that? Grandpa Wang instantly got angry from embarrassment when he noticed Wang Ting's strange gaze. He glared at Wang Ting. Nothing, nothing. Wang Ting sniggered. He continued, Grandpa, I admire you for all your glorious deeds in the past. Your grandpa was a hero when he was young. Grandpa Wang stroked his beard and said proudly. No wonder you were able to enchant my grandma, Wang Teng added. Of course. In the past, when Wang Teng noticed that the old man was about to reminisce about his past again, he said hurriedly, Grandpa, someone is here to offer me a toast. Let me go attend to him. After he finished speaking, he ran away without waiting for his grandpa's reply. Today, Wang Ting was the main lead. Everyone buttered him up even more after they saw his display of strength. Many people came to offer him a drink. They showered him with so many praises that he almost went numb. Wang Shengguo was in the same situation. After some time, he got a bit dizzy from alcohol. Had Wang Shenghong and the others not helped him finish some drinks, he would have been wasted by now. The happy banquet ended. When the guests left the Crown Hotel, they were still talking about Wang Teng. Xu Jianbo turned around and exclaimed, the Wang family is going to flourish. This was all because of Wang Teng. He looked at his son and daughter. His daughter had also entered the martial arts course and was now a martial warrior. However, she didn't possess Wang Ting's ability or temperament. When Zhu Wu attacked just now, his daughter was obviously shocked. If she was the one facing that man, she might not be able to retaliate. Not to mention suppressing the other party until he was unable to resist like Wang Ting. Little Hui, I don't know many things about the martial arts path, but I know that there's a huge risk. If you're unable to adapt, you should look for an office job in the future, Shu Jianbo said to his daughter. Shu Hui bit her lips and remained silent for a moment. Then, she nodded and replied, "I'll think about it." Shu Jianbo didn't say any more words to her. He turned and looked at Shu Jie. He asked, "Shu Jie, are you sure you want to go on the martial arts path? This route might be very dangerous. You saw what happened during the banquet. Death is a common thing for them." Shu Jie nodded his head firmly and said, "Dad, I want to embark on this path." "All right. Since you want to head in this direction, go ahead and do it. I will support you wholeheartedly," Shu Jianbo said with relief. "I will work hard," Shu Jie said. "You are already close with Wang Teng. Maintain this relationship properly. Don't drift apart," Shu Jianbo said. "Little Jie, since you want to practice martial arts, you can seek Wang Teng's guidance when you have the time. It will be beneficial for you." After sending all the guests away, Wang Teng, Grandpa Wang, and the Wang family came to a room. Zhu Wu was locked up here after he got heavily injured by Wang Teng. His hands and legs were bound by metal chains, and he seemed dispirited. He was very weak. Wang Teng lowered his head and looked down at the man. His face was cold. "What do you want?" Zhu Wu asked fearfully. His heart pounded when he saw Wang Teng staring at him. Wang Teng said, "Answer my questions, and I will let you go." "Will you really let me go?" Zhu Wu asked suspiciously. "You don't have any other choice. If you don't tell me, I will kill you now," Wang Teng said indifferently as a cold glimpse flashed past his eyes. "All right, ask." Zhu Wu gritted his teeth and chose to compromise. Wang Teng noticed that he was still quite sensible, so he nodded and asked, "What's Ren Jianping's background?" At first, he was just an ordinary person. However, his grandson, Ren Qingcang, is a martial arts genius. Zhu Wu couldn't help but glance at Wang Ting when he said this. "Continue." Wang Ting said. "Ren Qingcang is very talented. Leitang Martial House has high hopes for him. They even gave him an SS grade contract. Later, the president of Leitang Martial House noticed him and took him in as his disciple. Within a few years, he became a 6-star soldier-level martial warrior. The Ren family benefited from this and gradually became a powerful family over the years," Zhu Wu said slowly. The direct disciple of Leitang Martial House's president, a 6-star soldier-level martial warrior, Wang Shenghong, and the others were dumbfounded. No matter which status it was, their Wang family couldn't afford to provoke him. The Wang family actually had such a huge enemy. They thought that Wang Ting was only a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior. He couldn't be compared with Ren Qingcang at all. In an instant, everyone felt stress. No wonder Ren Jianping boasted about his grandson. Hes referring to Ren Qingcang. Grandpa Wang appeared composed as he spoke calmly. "Dad, Ren Qingcang is so powerful and Hes the direct disciple of the president of Leitang Martial House. How can our Wang family fight against him?" Zhao Huili said with a pale face. "What are you nervous about?" Grandpa Wang scolded. Then, he continued, "No matter how powerful he is, can he come to Donghai and annihilate our Wang family? Short-sighted. If you don't know anything, don't talk nonsense." Wang Shenghong glared at her. "Little Teng, are you confident?" Grandpa Wang asked Wang Teng. Everyone turned to look at Wang Ting unconsciously when they heard this. He was the only martial warrior in the Wang family. If there was anyone that had a chance of resisting Ren Qingcang, it was Wang Teng. Although there was a huge difference in their ability now, he might have a chance in the future. Ren Qingcang might have signed an SS-grade contract, but the one I signed is an SSS-grade contract. Wang Teng didn't say much. He just told everyone about the contract Jisin Martial House gave him. An SSS-grade contract. Zhu Wu's eyes turned wide open. "You actually signed an SSS-grade contract?" He looked at Wang Ting in disbelief. Wang Shenghong and the others didn't know the difference between an SS-grade contract and an SSS-grade contract. They just knew that there was an additional S, so it seemed more impressive. Also, when they looked at Zhu Wu's expression, they felt that the SSS-grade contract must be pretty astonishing. Everyone immediately saw hope in the situation. "Give me some time. I will not be weaker than that Ren Qingtsang," Wang Teng said. There were some things that Wang Teng didn't say. Is a 6-star soldier-level martial warrior very powerful? He only used less than 2 months to advance from a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior to a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. In that case, will becoming a 6-star martial warrior be too far away? I'm a bug. How can I lose? That's great. I knew that little Ting wouldn't be weaker than that Ren Qingtsang, Zhao Huili said happily. Everyone couldn't help but roll their eyes. Who was the one that turned pale with fright just now? This stupid woman. Wang Shenghong wanted to cover his face. He felt incredibly embarrassed. It's good that you're confident. However, before your ability is strong enough, it's better to keep a low profile. Don't face Ren Qingtsang head-on, Grandpa Wang said. Sure. What do you plan to do with Zhu Wu? Grandpa Wang asked. You said that as long as I reply to your question, you will let me go, Zhu Wu shouted. His expression also changed. Don't worry. I mean what I say. I'll release you now. Wang Teng ordered someone to unlock the chains around his hands and feet and allowed him to leave. Grandpa Wang couldn't help but frown when he looked at Zhu Wu's back view. If you don't uproot the grass from its roots, there'll be no end of trouble for the future. Don't worry, Grandpa. The day he leaves Donghai will be the day he dies, Wang Ting said indifferently with a cold smile at the edge of his lips. Chapter 162. Stop and Kill. Zhu Wu felt that he was extremely unlucky. At first, he thought that this was an easy task. He just needed to make a trip to Donghai and send a clock to a small family. He was able to do Ren Qingtsang a favor, so why not? Although Ren Qingtsang might not help him even though he did him a favor, leaving a good impression was enough. It was like going to the temple to pray. The deities might not remember you, but if you weren't willing to go to the temple at all, the deities would never care about you. It might seem like an arduous and fruitless task at first, but it might have unexpected results at a crucial moment. Ren Qingtsang was the direct disciple of the president of Leitang Martial House, who was a prominent figure. He was at the peak of the general stage and was one of the most influential figures in the entire country. He just needed to give a little advantage, and as his direct disciple, Ren Qingtsang would benefit for life. Similarly, if he could get some benefits from Ren Qingkang's finger cracks, it would be enough for a normal martial warrior like him who didn't have any background. Martial warriors mostly pursued interest. Zhu Wu had no grudges with the Wang family, yet he was willing to be Ren Qingkang's pawn and complete tasks for him because of interest. Unfortunately, he didn't expect Wang Ting to be so strong. He didn't even release much strength, but he had already suppressed him. He couldn't retaliate at all. That kid is a little strange. Didn't they say that he just became a martial warrior? It had only been one summer break. How can he be so strong? Even a normal genius won't improve at such a rapid pace. Zhu Wu was frustrated. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, even if he has some ability, what can he do? Can he be compared to Ren Qingtsang? He's quite stupid too. I answered his questions, and he really let me go. Doesn't he know what it means to release a tiger back to the forest? A look of contempt appeared on his face. He thought to himself furiously, when I go back to capital Xia, everything will depend on what I say. I can tell Ren Qingtsang that this fellow is quite powerful, and I managed to escape after suffering serious injuries. Then, I will exaggerate and tell him how he humiliated Ren Qingtsang. Ren Qingtsang will definitely send more powerful martial warriors to Donghai. I don't believe that the Wang family can still survive after all this. Zhu Wu rushed to the airport without stopping. He didn't feel secure staying in Donghai. He must go back to capital Xia as soon as possible. An hour later, he boarded the plane. The plane took off slowly and headed to capital Xia. When the plane left Donghai, Zhu Wu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had just relaxed his tense mind when his eyes suddenly widened. He clutched his heart painfully. How is this possible? Zhu Wu didn't understand what was happening. He squeezed his last sentence out with difficulty. Then, his head drooped down. He died. At the last second, Wang Ting's face flashed past his mind. He never thought of letting me go, the stupid one. What a joke. Not long after the banquet ended, the Wang family followed Wang Ting's family and went to their new house at Deer Garden. After touring the villa, everyone chatted casually in the living room. The environment here is excellent. When I came in, I saw many security guards patrolling the area, Zhao Huili said. Yes, there's no need to worry about the security here. I heard that even martial warriors don't dare to create trouble here, Li Zumei's sister, Li Shoulan, said. After all, most of the people living here are the family members of martial warriors. Any one of them can be a formidable person you can't provoke. Who dares to create trouble here? Wang Jiling said. At the other corner, Wang Teng was with the younger generation. His pupils flickered slightly. Temph, Zhu will definitely be surprised by the little present I left in his body. Actually, it was just a thin needle with his spiritual power infused on it. Wang Ting couldn't stretch his spiritual power for such a long distance. However, if he left a little of his spiritual power on an object, it wouldn't disperse for some time. He was able to use the telepathy between spiritual powers to perform some simple operations. For instance, detonation. He didn't just leave some of his spiritual power on the thin needle, he also left some fire force. Wang Ting had placed the thin needle at the edge of Zhu's heart. Once he ignited it, it would stab right into Zhu's heart. Even a martial warrior would not be able to handle this. Hence, Wang Teng wasn't worried that he would be lucky and survive. He knew that Zhu Wu would die on the spot. Unfortunately, he couldn't pick up the attribute bubbles because they were too far away. For the next 2 days, Wang Teng went to look for Lin Chuxia in the day to pick up poison attributes, accompanied his parents, and taught Dudu at night. At midnight, he would sneak into the western suburb mental hospital to pick spirit attributes. His life was really fulfilling. Very soon, it was the first day of university. Wang Teng's family had already moved into their new home in Deer Garden. Li Xiumei was checking Wang Teng's luggage. At the same time, she kept nagging at him like a doting mother. Her hands didn't stop moving either. She stuffed everything useful and useless into his luggage bag. Mom, this is enough. If you stuff any more things, it won't close. Wang Teng was caught between laughter and tears. I can close it. Your mom is a master at this. No matter how many things I put inside, I will close it for you, Li Xiumei said confidently. Her hands didn't slow down at all. But, why are you packing so many things? The school sells everything, and it is situated beside the university town. I can come back anytime. There's no need to bring so many things at once, Wang Ting said helplessly. I heard that military academies are really strict. They don't allow you to leave school at normal times, Li Xiumei said. It's not that exaggerated. I have to use the items the school provided for certain things. They might not even allow me to bring the things you placed inside through the school gates. Huh? They won't allow you to bring them in? Wang Teng persuaded his mom with all means and finally made her give up the idea of letting him carry 3 luggage bags with him to university. Brother Wang Teng, are you going to school? Dudu sat on the sofa and stared at the busy Li Xiumei with her big eyes. Then, she turned her head to ask Wang Teng. That's right. I'm going to school. You must be obedient at home, okay? Wang Ting squatted down and patted her head. Dudu nodded her small head and replied, okay, I will be obedient. Good girl. But, if brother Wang Ting isn't at home, who will teach me martial arts? Dudu thought for a moment, tilted her head, and asked. Wang Teng recalled Dudu's recent performance. Her perseverance had astounded him. He contemplated for a moment and said, when I'm not home, you don't have to practice. Wait for me to come back and teach you, alright? Okay, I will wait for brother to come back. Dudu nodded her head earnestly. Li Xiumei couldn't help but smile when she saw the 2 people chatting at the side. Dudu had been exceptionally obedient for the past few days. She was more obedient than her peers. It made people like her but feel sad for her too. Half an hour later, Wang Ting dragged a luggage bag and went out of the house. Perform well in school. Don't worry about the family, Wang Shenghua stood at the entrance and said as he looked at him. Wang Ting said, don't worry. But, if there's anything, you must give me a call. Wang Shenghua nodded. Go ahead. Wang Ting glanced at Li Xiaomei and Wang Shenghua again. Then, he turned around and left without any hesitation. He didn't ask them to send him off. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.